Hi, everybody, and welcome. This class is called Lessons for Full Spectrum Humans. I am Aurora. Today I'm doing both level 1 and level 2, lesson 8. So of the level 1 is non-religious Christ consciousness, where I'm going to speak extensively about what your indigo chakra is and how it relates to your violet chakra, which is a direct analog to your DNA and aspects of your light body. And also, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the level 2 stuff, which is called Loving All Aspects of Self and is about galactic scale consciousness. And that one, I have a lot of self-criticism to be able to talk about, because when I first recorded these lessons and when I first articulated these concepts, it was a completely different atmosphere or environment. And if you took my teachings from that more pristine time and related it to this time of nano crapola and garbage, I think that it would be very the opposite of what I had encouraged. Like, it would not help you in your journey. It might even be unhelpful or dilute your journey in some way. So I'm always critical of my own work because the context is always shifting, and I'll get to that. But first, I want to just say a big, giant, huge thank you to the student. I'll just allow them to remain anonymous. And they sent me a beautiful gift of a stylus, and it works so well, and it is covered in Aurora colors. So let me just say deep, profound gratitude, because you guys are going to see my brain is better today because I'm not getting drained every time I touch the computer. So maybe I can even draw things too. So profound, infinite gratitude to the student who got me this new stylus. Okay, good. So first, let's start off with my self-rant and my self-critique, because the level 2 stuff is about loving all aspects of self. The concept that in the galaxy, you're working with a primary ray of consciousness. Just like in your own individual body, the entire recipe of all of the colors of the chakras of who you are add up to a universal or ascended, for lack of a better word, level of yourself that is your white light ray of pure consciousness. And this is also true in the galaxy, where you have many different star systems and different places that would be considered like the refracted elemental segmentation of different characteristics throughout the galaxy. And this would be considered proper. Like, you have the planet of the fluffy bunnies, or the planet of the mean, cruel monsters. And that each facet forms it adds up to the totality. And again, pardon me, my bad articulation, because I said the planet of the horrible monsters, but I should say things better. I should say that, because what I'm going to talk about in the level 1 stuff, non-religious Christ consciousness, is the you as telepathic, multifaceted viewpoint of self. And what I talk about in the galactic scale identity stuff is the sense that you are this galactic scale entity, and you are multifaceted, and that all these different unique civilizations or types of creatures or star systems, or even like organizations, like different ways of doing things, different ways of sharing energy or economy or other things like that, they all represent different aspects of yourself. And that is kind of like that reductionist and facile new age shadow work that says it's all you, it's all in the soup. It all washes out in the giant karmic washing machine, and you just have to kind of embrace everything as self. And I don't ever want my work to be taken out of context there, because I even say things about that like, if you are triggered by the experience of encountering these other facets of yourself, that it's because you have something to learn from your other facets. But this is only true in a pristine system. So please wipe it all away, because right now you're not in a pristine system. The nanotechnology and 5G, and even I wouldn't call it artificial intelligence, but like pseudo intelligence or constructs of amalgamations of people's living echoes placed into digital containers. All of these things represent non-truthful aspects of self. And so I'm here with you in this sea of garbage. And, as I'm showing you this ideal abstract concept, I hope you can kind of see this against the background, where, you have the central core timeline. This stylus is now my central core timeline, and bullet train of infinity. I'm so excited. But then you have the parallel versions of reality. And I have described those parallel versions of reality as some of them pre-existing, like the great scriptwriter wrote with their quill pen, like William Shakespeare, like this is what's going to happen to you on parallel timelines. But and also in the Christ consciousness presentation that I'm going to give to you, what I tell you that is truthful, and this is very empowering, is that your mind is emitting timelines. So with your pineal gland or your higher consciousness apparatus, your higher senses, you both align with timelines or edifices and create timelines or edifices. Let's talk about super diseased minds, like pathological minds, minds that are so diseased and so twisted and distorted that really they could never exist. So some of them are artificially created, like in a laboratory, a strange genetic amalgamation, mad scientists making things together, or strange genetic splicings or things like that, or created through breeding experiments of organizations, organisms, or people that would never have come together alternatively, or created through some strange type of chemical molecular bonding, biochemical portaling, where you take a physical viable cellular container and subject it to different chemicals to turn, to cut holes in it so that then something else pours into it from either another dimension, another world, or any of these types of things, these types of non-natural, seemingly impossible creatures that would be emitting flawed realities. Just think about that. Like if you're a creature and you somehow passed the cellular audition enough to be able to be here and be alive, but then they dump a chemical on you that allows the detritus that lines the lower astral to pour through your mind and give you the worst ideas. This is actually very apt for what is happening in the world. And then what happens if you, as a correct experiencer who is divinely connected, looks at that and is like, you're an aspect of me, hug me, like kumbaya. It's like hugging the grossest maggot-filled monster in the world and pretending as if it is yourself. And then even worse, if you integrated those flaws into your own either mind or consciousness or genetic code, that would be a dilution of and a pollution of who you are. So please do not do that. The concept that I write about in the talking about or describing the entire galaxy as being a multifaceted aspect of self works in a pristine system. So hold that for the time when you're not in a garbage system. And also the mind state that I talk about in judging or assessing the activities and life trajectory of others. It also does hold, but it's really not possible to practice it in the world that you're currently in. So take it as like a song that you can play one day. But that's basically when you see someone else. So when you are in non-judgment, your higher faculties rest on this plateau of non-judgment. And non-judgment does not mean that you have thrown the idea of right and wrong out the window, or that there is no such thing as a value system. You still contain the sense of right and wrong, but what you're able to do is to say, I would do things very, very differently than you. I see that you are doing things that are weird or strange or self-destructive or not what I would do. Good luck on your journey. Go and do them elsewhere, like go over a cliff, whatever, go jump off a bridge, go transcend into another planet, do it elsewhere. And that would be a viable approach in a pristine system. What is wrong with this system? Hold on, let me hydrate because you know me, I've only been going for like 5 minutes and it's already a marathon here. You're not in a pristine system, and what does that even mean? I don't know if you can hear my little quail bird keeps on squawking. That's Mr. Flowers because he is separated from the females. So he is upset. But refocusing. Apologies. When I say I am refocusing my mind and making sure that I'm getting to the right things here. When you are accommodating and loving others, You allow them their journey. When their journey is somehow adding up to acceleration or learning or transcendence in some way. And a lot of what you're experiencing right now is garbage and detritus and things that are not going to learn and grow and evolve and be like, oh, my mistake, I learned all about myself. I'm now going to grow and change and accelerate. A lot of things around you are going into entropy, that they are never going to learn, they're never going to grow, and you have been artificially yoked to them, which is very bad. So fictionally, so that I can talk about this and not be harassed by various surveillance algorithms, the 5G creates an artificial connection between body energy fields, naturally occurring energy fields. And what it does that is very harmful is creates a slush fund of humanity. Instead of you experiencing your own individual energy level and your own, let's say, grade in the school of life, you are amalgamated and there is an average that is created. You are graded as a group. And for those of you in this class who are accelerating, learning about yourselves, taking personal responsibility, being the definition of good people moving in a positive direction, you are A students. And it's the worst thing in the world if you are graded as a group because everyone else is going to be a worse student than you. So the people who are worse students than you, those are people who would be like drug addicts who don't take responsibility for their self-destruction or corrosive, self-activities, or people who hate themselves in some way, or people who are eating very bad food, bad chemicals, and doing bad things to themselves, or people who have become one with the Borg and they're cyborg people and they're diminishing their health and vitality because they're whatever being I would say cooked up with microchips because microchips are coming inside of them. And so all of them, they're like C students and below, they are definitely moving away from their divinity. They are not taking responsibility and moving towards greater levels of intelligence and organization and vivification and longevity. And it's a torment and a torture if you have to be connected to those energy fields. And it is also against cosmic law to create this type of artificial technological enclosure, which is what the Starlink does, that creates this interconnection of this synthetic interconnection of natural energy fields. So I'm working at all times to be able to end that artificial connectivity and of course, drainage or destabilization that happens as a result of this artificial economy and a restoration of the natural flow of energy through yourself, through your communities, and through your planet, so that way you can actually have this experience of learning about yourself and growing. And as I spoke about in class last week, the light amplifying. Like if you put a certain units of light into the system, that it bounces around, gets more organized, and exits amplified, or there's more energy that comes out than went in. That is the goal of this system. And instead, you have been in this system that is so corrosive that it slows down light, eats away at consciousness. You end up like it's stupider. You're going to exit the system stupider than when you went in. And we have to laugh because it's so not what is supposed to be happening. So the huge crime was erecting this satellite system around this planet. Not only that, it's a surveillance system that can tell, like, is your arm up? Is your arm down? Are you walking? Are you standing? Are you breathing? Are you doing this or that? But also that it would connect some aspect, like if you have 10 units of vitality and someone else only has 5 units of vitality, if they're feeling slow or diminished or poopy or whatever, that they would take 5 units of energy from you, that they would speed up and you would slow down, or that you would both slow down and then you'd both have whatever 7.5 units of energy. They would benefit, you would not benefit. And you can start to see what I'm talking about in terms of consciousness, how much people can think and know about. And then also, let's switch this over now to what the higher faculties run on, because it's not even bad enough like if someone else took your metabolism of joy or of life force and vitality, like how energetic or like enthusiastic you feel, not only about that, but if someone took your life force in the sense of, yes, like where you are going in time, like if you're on this timeline, if they would take you onto a worse timeline, um, collecting my thoughts, even worse than that, it'll get there. Oh my goodness. Let me show you pictures. Let me show you pictures with my fantastic stylus. Let's just look at everything here. And I always press this for privacy. Okay, so wait, this needs to go somewhere. Shown this picture to you a lot, and this is the essence of what natural telepathy is. This is the essence of what true Christ consciousness is. And then I also want to show you this over here. So it's two good things to show you. So one is the coming together of your physical anatomy, like where your cerebellum is over here, and where your spinal column meets with your brain, and how all of this relates to the anatomy of your light body, which is your indigo chakra here. And you can see how it projects forward and creates kind of like a lens in front of the person's face. So that's part of what I want to be talking about in non-religious Christ consciousness. This is the anatomy of your light body. Then I also want to emphasize what is happening in this pencil sketch, which is the coming together of multiple facets of your own mind across time or dimensional space. The face in this pencil sketch is like the overarching personality. All right, here's two eyes, the nose, and the mouth. But inside of there, there's this central light feature with all of these, analogs or poetic versions of people that are aiming in towards there. And that's artistic way of being able to describe to you through visual allegory that all of these are facets of self, but they are your true self, not aspects of yourself that would be artificial, created, fake, or synthetic, or something like that, but like a version of yourself that is living in another land, another place, another culture, another planet, or different context. And you're living in all of these different contexts. And in some of them, you might be a man, in some of them, you might be a woman, in some of them, you might be a cloud or an abstraction. In some of them, you might be whatever, more of an animalistic presence. And all of these different viewpoints they are not only unique, they're not only valid, they add up to the white light of your pure consciousness and the totality of who you are. So who you are in this moment right now, like I'm a woman wearing a purple dress. That is one facet of the totality of who I am, because I also know that I am in other times and places wearing other forms of clothing that are appropriate to my body that might not even be a humanoid form with two arms and two legs. I might not wear a dress. Maybe I might wear a toga or whatever. I'll wear like a fungal, like a mushroom hat. So like whatever, growing on my head. Like whatever is the weird thing that you wear in your place. Because believe me, when I came here as Aurora, I was like, oh, fascinating. Like this is what people cover their bodies with here. Like you have to wear what is, of course, anatomically appropriate and culturally appropriate. And it's different in every time and place. And the key point is that all of these different facets and unique approaches in each edifice or context add up to who you are. And you talk to yourself across time. It's on the time phone. And the time phone is the bending and folding of the fabric of space-time to transcend the expected limitations of the speed of light, which is what I talked about in class last week between the great teachers known as Sir Isaac Newton and Einstein. That both of those guys were great, but they did give you a lot of limitations in making you think that you could only go a certain amount of speed. and not actually get up to the speed of light. And that if there was an impulse that was coming from the galactic center or from the sun or from a origin point of light or portal of light, that it would take you a linear amount of time for that energy to reach you. And really, the truth is that through the bending of the fabric of space-time, you're able to receive those signals immediately. So that means that anything that is relevant, any directive or perspective or upgrade that comes from the world of pure light, the galactic center, the supermassive black hole or consciousness center, gravitational center of intelligence and condensed light and information at the galactic center beams to you directly. Like it doesn't take billions of years for that impulse to get over to you and for you to be like, oh, now I'm going to do this, because it would become irrelevant by the time it reached you. Same thing with these conversations and connections and communions that you're having with other aspects of yourself. I'm just hydrating, pardon me. You're connecting with yourself across time, and you must connect in real time in order for your music or your responses to be coordinated and synchronized. Because otherwise, you would talk to yourself from a place that is either distant in time or space. And you'd be like, oh, like now that I know about that, that's great. But that was relevant to me for like 500 effing years ago, and it doesn't do anything for me now. And same thing, like by the time you respond and you say the information back, the aspect of yourself that would receive it long after it is irrelevant. Drinking more energy. So, Christ consciousness is this natural telepathy network that you use to talk to this great expanse of yourself that is not smeared across time, but is, distributed all the way across time. And we have to talk about like some deep profound grief and anger, because the same exact agenda, the same exact people, the same exact negative empire that brought the nanotech to the world that we're in right now and has insulted consciousness and caused inflammation, distance from God, like divine disconnection and disconnection from each other on the heart level, but then artificial synthetic telepathy and connection on a intellectual level. Let me get more of my water over here. That is the same negative technological empire that we call satanic, and that has really assaulted the natural telepathy network that we call Christ. Let me drink here. Even assaulted to the point of maybe eradication. This is why grief. This is why this isn't just like an ordinary, easy lesson to be able to share with you. Because before 2020 or 2021, I had a lot of great connections to my whole entire telepathic, grouping of self. Like I am the person in that sketch, and then I have a point of pure light inside of my mind, as you do too. Please relate to this. And then I have all these other aspects of self that are diving into that light and that are connecting with me. And when the evil ones of this world created the satellite encasement and turned it on around 2020, 2021, and they also created the distraction signals that come from other people who got the injections and who emanate like a type of 5G broadcaster that makes it extra difficult for you to connect to the sun and other aspects of your true self and your true family of light. After that, it became very, very difficult for me to connect with my other aspects of self across time and with the Christ consciousness network. And the grief is not only of separation, but it is one of loss, because I think that those guys aren't just separated from us or like we get no signal on the cell phone. I think they've been eradicated or wiped out or destabilized or are imperiled in some way. And these are aspects of our own self. So it's not even enough to be able to be like, I love them or they're my friends or my family, but like, I'll pick up and go on and be okay and exhibit resilience. They are essential aspect of the foundation of who we are and where we come from, it's very, very difficult to just kind of pick up and go on, hobble along without that. But I will also give you the energetic weather report. What is positive is that the satanic presence across the galaxy has also been destroyed. Like everything has been wiped out and sanitized. Not like a giant Clorox has gone through the galaxy and just eradicated all microbes. What happened initially was in 2020 and 2021, there was this like a lightning war, like a sudden movement across all of these layers of the galaxy. The largest scale down to our personal lives. And that's what you know as the pandemic. Fictionally, so that I can even say this. I hope that I can get this message across and will not be suppressed. And the things that happened, and then you, of course, you're not going to have the same thing happen now, but there's always the attempt to like to enslave you using similar tactics now. But you are, of course, much older and much wiser. But back then, there was a globalist agenda. It wasn't just one country that was like, I think I'll roll out 5G today. Like they all worked together. They did it very intentionally. They are satanics. And this goes to lesson 18. And I used to, can you believe it, girl? Like I used to back in the good old days, teach my whole entire class and be like, hum-de-dum-dum, we'll talk about that in lesson 18. It's like when you tell kids, like they ask questions about the birds and the bees, and you're just like, we'll talk about that later. You know, scary face. Like, I don't know what, we'll just tell you that later. But now the cat's out of the bag. So now that you guys are all fully informed and you know exactly what the birds and the bees are all about, and you know exactly who's been messing up life and why are things so messed up in the world, so we don't have to make any allusions or couch our language or hide things in any way. The world that you're in right now here, people are an amalgamation between what is loosely mythologically culturally known as good and evil. Amalgamation between your natural native version of DNA and soul and values and characteristics and garbage. And the garbage came from Mars. It does not originate from this planet. And the guys that were on Mars did not originate from the solar system. They came from somewhere else originally. So that's just the very glossed over short story version of this whole thing. But these characteristics are not valid characteristics that come from another aspect of self. Do not think of them as perfectly valid in another facet of reality. Like that's the bloodthirsty version of me, like that has to live like a gladiator on some lava-filled planet where everything is burning all the time. And so I had to fight like a barbarian for survival. But like that's not the plan of the fluffy bunnies. So what is not valid is that the proposal that I have about these different facets of characteristics is to say that different characteristics help you to survive in a different context. But these very profoundly evil satanic monsters do not have good survival characteristics. They don't survive. They end up dead. They end up dead on the membrane of death. That is the antithesis of good survival characteristics. And then in there, non-responsibility for the things that have made them dead. Instead of being like, maybe these things that made me dead weren't right and I should change and do better. They're like, double down. These things that made me dead, I'm not going to change those things. Instead, I will steal from the ones who are doing their math correctly. Double down. I'm not going to change. I steal from you now. This is the satanic approach. And this is, completely untenable. You cannot live your life alongside of these D and F students who are clearly doing bad biological math. Like when you kill yourself or you explode your planet, you're doing bad biological math. You're like, what if I put this and this together? The answer is you will die. And then if you die, you should be like, wow, I should not have put this and this together. I have learned and grown. And then it's like the end. But instead, some of these things are like, oh, I want to get out of jail free card. I want to put things together, explode planets, kill my biological form, and then still somehow steal energy from those guys and have a formfulness in the world. And those are all non-acceptable self-conflict ambivalences that cannot exist in the logic structure of the cosmic infrastructure. Like if you want to be alive, kid, that's great. You do this, this, and this, and you can be alive. If you do this, this, and this, you cannot be alive. And if you do this, this, and this, and you are not alive, you cannot be semi-alive or try to stay alive or try to get alive again by stealing off of that guy over there. The very evil, civilization or groupings that became these technologists, these satanic races that are throughout the galaxy, they are Antichrist. They are Antichrist and they are antithetical to true Christ. In fact, let me consult my notes for a moment here. I write my notes and then I also go over my notes and I write extra stuff on my notes. And if you could see it, I think you would laugh at like how many little scrawlings are over here. But I do that so that I can be like, this is the important stuff. I want to make sure that I remember during class. So hold on. Thank you for your patience while I'm doing so much better working with just pieces of paper. Don't worry, we'll get there. As I wrote it, Christ, Antichrist. And if I can't actually find it, you'll be like, that's it. Okay. So in my teachings about non-religious Christ consciousness, I say, you don't have to be a particular religion in order to be a part of Christ. It's truthful. So, you know me, like I wear this cross here, but I'm not part of any of the denominations of the churches of your human world that is here. But I'm a part of Christ in the Christ consciousness network, like the picture, like the sketch that I just showed to you. And if you wonder why is it a cross that is the symbol of true Christ consciousness? The religion co-opted the experience. That why do I have this on my dress? Like, why am I obsessed with this in my repetitive nature of my paintings? Because when you are in Christ consciousness and you are seeing with your inner vision and your time eye, you see a cross with your inner eye. Like, you will see this. You will see this shape, but it is not this like imbalanced cross. It's an equal armed cross, and it looks a lot more like the four vortexes that I show you all the time, or what is known as like a Templar cross. Like when you are on target with your own mind, you're like kind of like, at the eye doctor, they're like, is this clear? Is this clear? Can you see this? Can you see this? This is what it's like for your higher faculties as you come more in focus with your divine nature. And at a certain point, like everything comes into focus and you're like, oh, that's it. I'm God. And what you see is like this cross in your mind. So to give you a little bit of cultural stuff, the current doctrine church that I don't agree with at all makes this type of, cross throughout the whole body like this. But the original Christians that met one another, they lived in secret so that they wouldn't be unduly martyred by the, power structure of the time. But they met each other. They're like, hey, man, you in Christ, you in Christ. Yeah, yeah. And then we make a little cross like this. So this is like the anatomical and universal truth that then became woven into culture, mythology, mannerisms, and eventually codified as a religious symbol. But this is the origin of the religious symbol. So in my teachings, I say everybody has this potential to be in Christ, which is basically like saying everybody has an eyeball, but your eye has to work. Like you have an eyelid, you have to have your eyelid open, you have to have your eyesight focused, and then you also have to be able to interpret what you are seeing with your eyesight. And that is truthful, but that's just like when I say that everybody has, one of these shapes, one of these vortex shapes, and that if you're allowed enough opportunities to go through that refinery of experience, that you will eventually align with the central core timeline, which is you as an ascended master, and you will exit the refinement process. That is truthful. All right. But please know, not everybody does that. Not everybody becomes an Olympic athlete. Not everybody, sorry, there's always flies in during class. Not everybody ends up activating and aligning with this perfectly. And so when I say in my notes that everybody has this Christ, it is truthful. But in the world that you're in right now, there are people that we have to describe as anti-Christ. So that's my little scrawled note that I wanted to say, because it says Christ is a literal part of your anatomy and you can't not have it. So when you look around, if I was not careful, and if you just read my notes, you'd be like, kumbaya, kumbaya with garbage, let's all kumbaya. And you would hug all these people who are, because you would think, well, they have a body, they have a mind in Christ, their eyelids are closed, or they're not able to activate their mind yet, but they will one day. So hug it, bring it in, bro, hug it up. And I'm like, no, that's not what's going on, because a lot of people here are doing, I don't have words for, I want to say engaged with Antichrist. Those are the words that wanted to come out. Their Christ chakra and their mind is actually Antichrist. And so that's different than just like having your eyes closed or blinded, or only seeing with partial vision. Antichrist is seeing false light. And false light is the synthetic telepathy, is the nanotechnology or plastic hydrogels grid in people's retinas, but also in their brain. But it is also an interface between the human neurology and levels of cognitive awareness and the functionality of a machine like a MacBook or a phone or something like that. So it is also the interface between the biological and the technological. And then it's also the value system or the idea structure that comes as a result of that. Because if you were if you were correct, you'd be like, I don't want this exoskeleton of my brain, or I have no need or desire for this external accoutrement, or why in the world would I want that? You'd be like, I am enough who I am. Like, why in the world would I want that? But many people, D and F students around you, instead of being like, oh, like my inner eye doesn't work, or my mind doesn't work, or I don't like my level of cognitive awareness or capability or empowerment, instead of cultivating myself as a spiritual athlete and trying to be more and do more, I'm going to put microchips in my brain and synthetically connect myself to an algorithm, or not an artificial intelligence, but really an externalized accoutrement of pseudo intelligence, but also a lot of pathology, and feel like my mind is elevated. And they've created an artificial analog that is very not impressive. So, like, real bacon is delicious, and your body, you're like appetized by it because it's so full of nutrients and it smells so aromatic and so good. But then there's, like I've joked about, fake bacon seasoning, which has zero nutritional value, but your body like responds to it. You're like, that is going to be so tasty. I'm so tempted by it, because it's a biochemical response. The artificial colorant and artificial flavors know how to elicit that response in you. That's what Antichrist is, and that is what false light is. False telepathy, false light, Antichrist hardware and software create an artificial semi-experience of what the real telepathy and real telepathic Christ network creates. The real telepathic Christ network is predicated upon a strong foundation of unconditional love. So that means that as you perceive someone else, you have a strong enough foundation of love and acceptance to withstand the ramifications of what you perceive. The surveillance state that is created through nano and 5G, fictionally, so I can get this across to you, is surveillance without love. So the ideal is that when you are in Christ, you're part of your Christ network family. This is all done through love and through self-cultivation. And when you connect with other aspects of yourself through the mind and through the heart, you're not judging them. You're not like, you're an ugly cow, like put down that hamburger, you're too fat, or anything like that. But that is what we get from the 5G and the nano. And it's because it is surveillance and interference in your life, but without love. So these are really two very, very different things. When you're a spiritual master and you're either perceiving other people who are still on their spiritual journey and who are not very advanced, or when you are connecting with other aspects of yourself, you do so in love. And that does not mean love or like some kind of sappy accommodation or allowing people to be bad. It means like understanding and comprehension. And my stance where I'm like, you do you, girl, you're crazy, go over a cliff. That is kind of love, but it's not all that love is. So love is acceptance, where it's like, okay, I don't agree with you, but you have to learn the lessons you have to learn. Go and learn your lessons. But love is also exhibited towards yourself, where you're like, you learn your lessons. You go over a cliff. You be a drug addict. You go live in the gutter, not me. So right now, what's happening on your planetary family is that there are some human aspects of your planetary family who are like going in the gutter. I always want to like joke like some like Italian grandma, like your life's going down the gutter. And but that would be fine, but not to bring you along with them. This has to do with where you're going. Are you going towards the membrane of death, gutter, or are you going towards remembrance that you are divine and acceleration towards the world of pure light? So, a lot of the work that I'm doing right now on the esoteric level is to break the artificial synthetic telepathy connections so that A, students like you can actually accelerate and go where you're supposed to go. And the other guys do not get to have another chance. The sweat hogs, the D and F students, they have already asked for another chance in other times and places in their other multifaceted levels of self. They're like, oh, you get them to the breaking point and they're like, oh, please, just give me another chance. And then you give them another chance. And what happens? They come into this world here and then they do not learn their lessons or put forward good effort to change, grow, and evolve. In fact, they do bad math intentionally. This is what being a psychopath is. So when you do bad math intentionally and then try to drag you onto those timelines. So now specific energetic weather report for where we are in this journey 2026 style. So, when I hold this up for you, you always see how it comes to this very, very tiny point. So you can comprehend that you have like my central finger here is like that pathway of ascended mastery. And then these other fingers are shorter. Like this is the membrane of death. They're always going to end. We're on the middle finger, people, but I didn't want to hold it up in such an indelicate way. But we are here on this central core timeline right now, and we are really beyond the level where there are any other alternatives. And this is important because in my own life, I would often be considering the alternatives. Like I'm on this journey. So one example would be whatever. Months ago, we had a water main break in my town. So my sink didn't have any water. And I was like, oh, let me check in with this psychically. On other timelines, it was even worse. On other timelines, it was like because of a larger or worldwide disaster, and none of us had water, and we all struggled, and many people died. And so I'm on this timeline where I'm like, oh, like we had a pipe that broke, and now it got fixed after a couple of days, and then everything improved and went back to normal. So that was a valid approach, and you could apply that in a lot of different circumstances, except energetic weather report as of like last week or so, there are no more alternatives. And don't consider that that means that you have to walk on some special tightrope in order to continue to propel yourself forward on the viable timelines. Like, oh, like if I make one wrong move, I'm going to fall over somehow. And then I will be like in nuclear conflagration or in cannibalism or some, terrible alternative. No, the answer is really that what came to me in my flash of insight was that those alternatives literally do not exist. And deeper insight that I can share with you, and forgive me because I haven't even really tried to put this into words yet. The implantation or origin of the expectation of those negative alternative realities came from the people that had the 5G or the nanotech or the insane hardware and software inside of them. It was a very clear moment where I saw like that thought didn't come from me. That thought came from outside of me. Something else just stimulated my brain in order to try to expect a parallel reality where something bad happened. And then I could be grateful that I'm on this central reality where the bad thing didn't happen. And instead, I realized I am on the optimum timeline where these negative timeline creator entities no longer create their negative timelines. That's the best timeline. Garbage emitting minds are no longer emitting garbage. So you don't have to constantly be like, okay, don't fall over onto that side. There's garbage over there. Don't fall over onto that side. Garbage over there. You are now able to move forward. Think of it like, you're a bicyclist and you are propelling yourself forward with each positive heartbeat or with each positive like effort or thought. You're like, oh, I'm going in a good direction. I'm going in the correct direction. And these other areas don't exist. So I'm trying to like give you more examples. In the past, anxiety was a real thing. And anxiety is the uncontrolled mind, which is where it's you, where you're like using your creative capacity of your Christ mind, but in an uncontrolled or flailing mm, dynamic that then can make things happen that you don't want to have happen. So an example of that that I think everybody can relate to is the fear or the anxiety that someone that you love is dead. It can be anyone because it can be your dog, your cat, your child, or like a distant loved one or whatever. But you think sometimes like, oh, like what if so and so is dead in a ditch? When you are mastering your mind and you're heading into the age of responsibility, you recognize that that thought actually generates reality. And then you're like, and not only bad enough that I thought the thought and I generated that reality, like I don't want to be responsible for killing my loved one with my uncontrolled mind. So in the past, the correct thing to do would be to say to cosmic infrastructure, like, oh, my mind just went in a crazy direction. I don't want that at all. Let's erase that away with my cosmic eraser and either fill in the blank with something better or make it clear that I didn't want that. Or you could imagine it as a cosmic vacuum cleaner where you're like, oh, this thought garbage emitted my mind. Is so and so dead in a ditch? No, they're not. I'm going to draw that back in or fishing line, reel it back in. So it's beginning to learn to control the tendrils of your mind as your mind reaches out in time towards some events. You're like, oh, I don't want that event. Bring your tendrils back to you. But that's very, very different when something emerges from within you. And then you're like, I am responsible for that. I errantly created that reality with my own fear and anxiety. Let me meld it away and go forward in a better way. But that's very different than what I experienced in like the past couple of days where I was like, oh, very, very clearly saw that it was something that was technological, artificial implantation in my mind that was connected to me from this synthetic telepathy that made me think or expect that something bad would happen. And then what I had to do was recover from it, like compensate, sorry, that's the word, compensation for it, and then bring myself back to balance. We shouldn't have to be constantly in a tug of war against these implantations because then you end up being the slave to having to respond to the things that are pulling you off balance. So, of course, what we want to do is to remove the errant signals. That's what Antichrist is. There's Christ consciousness and there's Antichrist consciousness. Okay, I'm like getting far ahead of myself. Let me rewind and talk about on an anatomical, mechanical level, what the indigo chakra is and what the violet chakra is, and how these two force fields interact and interpenetrate, and what their relationship is like. Because you have your brow chakra that is right here, and that's indigo or the deepest blue. And then you have your violet chakra, which is your crown. And that's usually up here at the top of your head and is connected to violet. And it's really blue and violet together that is or are your higher faculties. So it's not just one or the other, and you amalgamate the viewpoint, and that is what helps to guide you and bring you forward. And the fuel that propels you when you go through time or through consciousness is love. And love is a giving and receiving and it's unconditional love, not necessarily affection. So in your own mind, there is not a conflict or an out of balance power dynamic where it's like one needs to be stronger than the other. That would not be love. The love tone between your indigo and your violet chakra is the mutual respect and reciprocity. In most of your marriages in this world, people do not exhibit physical mutual respect and reciprocity. Most physical marriages are hugely out of balance, and there's males and females, patriarchy, aspects of financial imbalances in money resources, and cultural expectations of empowerment. But the perfect, pristine world of your own chakras is not meant to be a place where you have an innate expectation of power dynamics or sexual politics. There's innate respect. Like there's innate respect between your heart and your lungs. Your heart is not like to your lungs, like, stop telling me what to do, and your lungs are like, sit there and pump some blood. They are respectful towards one another. Your heart is like, I know what I do in life. Like I pump blood. And your lungs are like, I know what I do in life. Like I inhale oxygen or exhale carbon dioxide. Like, let's work together. Okay. So let's talk about what is the action of the indigo chakra. It is a lens, as I showed you in that blue painting. The lens is an emanation or an energy force field that comes from your pineal gland, but is not synonymous with your pineal gland. And what it does is takes the raw material or the uncollapsed waveform of abstraction that's all around you and runs it through your interpretation system and builds a view of reality for you. It generates reality. So as you're being given this whole entire amount of information or data, this lens focuses the data and makes it into a picture that you can comprehend through your anthropomorphic viewpoint, and that's the human viewpoint. But in doing so, the lens takes out information that it considers irrelevant, amplifies other information that it considers more relevant, and distorts reality. And so you have to comprehend that everything that's through your human viewpoint is going to be kind of distorted and not the ultimate viewpoint. The ultimate viewpoint of empirical truth is the violet chakra, which is one of pure abstraction that goes beyond any stories or experiences that you have from being in a biological container called human, and instead is the level of what I call 1 + 1 = 2, pure math. And in those levels of reality, there is no negotiation or question of what is truthful. There are established truths that are foundational. It's almost like polygons, like a 90-degree angle. Like this is just the way that these guys fit together. If you have never seen the world at that level, you can be so very mistaken. You can be talking about the poetry and the human dynamic motivation of emotions and cultural isms or behaviors, but not actually see the empirical knowledge that drives those behaviors, which can actually be calculated as a calculation on the skin of the torus. The scripts that are written or narratives that are written are not just like William Shakespeare, where he could write anything. He could be like, here's my like flourishing quill pen, and I'm William Shakespeare. And then this happened, and Romeo fell in love with Juliet, and then Hamlet killed himself, and then this happened, and this happened, and then an alligator bit off their face, and then space aliens flew down from the sky. Like you can write anything. It's a fictional play. It doesn't have to have logical consistencies and hang together the way that, like, when you're architecting a house or something like that's a polygon, it has to fit together. Like the angles all have to fit together and the causality structures all have to fit together. So please know, none of your Shakespearean traumas and tragedies, none of your Hollywood movies, none of your silly fictional TV shows, like none of these things that are at the foundation of your definition and own your own conversation that you are having, your own self-expression about around what it is to be human. None of them are accurately calibrated. All of them are very, very loose estimations of what it is to be human. So, in your own personal journey, it is essential to gather enough heart energy to turn on your telescope at the level beyond your human interpretation structure and at the level of pure abstraction. And when you do that, you see everything as color and line and shape and form. And I see it as like a type of math, but not necessarily number symbols. And everything fits together. So now we need to talk about DMT. We need to talk about my notes and everything like that, because I also, this is on my very last page of my notes. Hold on a second. All the way back here, because we have to talk about, I'm sorry, painfully shuffling papers over here. Hold on. Like, whoa, oh my God, it's taking forever. I know. We have to talk about the pineal gland, melanin, melatonin, and DMT. Are you ready? Yes, you are very ready. So, as I said, the lens is the energy field that is created by the activity of the pineal gland. So the lens is an energy field that is not part of the five senses reality. And the lens, of course, shifts according to various different things that you do. Like you must cultivate that lens. When your lens is healthy, you incinerate lies. When your lens is healthy, you use it to incinerate Antichrist, false light. You disbelieve it. You're like, that is a bunch of, I will say it, that's a bunch of bullshit. Sorry, kids. Sorry, moms who are listening with their kids. You incinerate it as opposed to drinking it in as if it is truth. So you guys all just made major connections. You're like, oh, like when I'm on my phone and I'm looking at this bullshit on my phone and it's in the light is shining on my face, it's going in my eyes, it's going in my pineal gland, it is false light. And it's like any of these pictures that you've seen with like a person is holding their phone and the light is coming forward, it kind of melts into their face. You understand false information, a false view of the world, a false view of culture and of communication with other people, and then having that have an impact on your own lens of interpretation that you use to unlock and decode and make sense of the world. So the phone and technology and software and things that come through the culture of social media is the current level of distortion. But in the past, it was things like the death cult religions, something like the lens of religion. And when you look at the world to interpret things through that flawed, interpretation system. So what you want to do is to get enough momentum and enough energy in your heart to be able to transcend the physical, human, anthropomorphic viewpoint of comprehending the world and go directly to the world of pure abstraction. And at that level, you will not make mistakes in your interpretation of reality. So, at the level of reality where you are a human comprehending other humans, it is the time of comedies and tragedies. It's the level of reality where you have comedies and tragedies because you have the opportunity for hilarious levels of miscommunication, where you say one thing, but the other person really hears it very differently or something completely different. And then you spend exactly 26 minutes and 35 seconds working it out because that's like the length of a sitcom. And that's a lot of your TV. And I was never very impressed by the TV shows that are like that because I was always like, if these people just talk to each other, the entire show would be over in like, 3 to 4 minutes. So of course, that is why these hilarious miscommunications and mistakes are cultivated. I'm saying that with total sarcasm because, sorry about that, with natural telepathy, you do not have miscommunication. You have genuine communication and you don't have the hilarious mistakes that happen from people's minds not connecting or not connecting effectively. You have people's minds connecting effectively and actually building a world. So you understand the world that you're coming out of, that you've been subjected to, has been a world of cacophony, not beautiful music of different minds that fit together. And then even now, because you have amalgamation of some crappy music and bad evil into the minds of the people here now, but those bad evil minds then got even worse by creating the hardware and software that took the worst pathology of their own minds, amplified it, and even externalized it into a form of pseudo intelligence, which is what has been running this synthetic telepathy network. Okay, we have to talk about DMT and the CIA call center. Your pineal gland emits three structures, three hormones, which are all like light communication structures in the analog of your light body. One of them is, let's start with the easiest one, melanin. Melanin is what's in my eyes and in my hair. It's the brown pigment, and it's, of course, in my skin. Many of us have this, and it is a protectant so that you don't get too much light into your light body from the sun, the nearest emitter of consciousness and high energy, I want to say software, high energy ideas. But melanin can also be considered the savings bank for light when you are exposed to light. So when you go outside and you're exposed to light from the sun, your skin talks to your pineal gland. There are skin cells called melanocytes that get the information. Please make some melanin now. And you make the melanin, the brown pigment, and it goes into the layers of your skin to protect and shield you from excessive layers of sunlight coming in. But that melanin is also like stored up sunlight. And so when you go out into the sun in the summertime and you absorb that light and your skin turns a darker tan or brown, and then maybe around October or November when there's no more sunlight and you're indoors most of the time, your tan brown color goes away and you become like white or yellowish again. The savings bank of light is going away. And please know that that savings bank is really, really important. So I'm giving you a teaching that is really beyond the mechanistic biochemistry that you would get from the five senses world of science. Okay. Another one of the important hormones or light-based chemicals that your pineal gland creates, but also your mitochondria create and utilize is called melatonin. So these sound very similar. We got melanin and then melatonin. These things sound very similar. And melatonin sounds very similar to serotonin, which is the feel-good chemical in your body. And there's a reason for that because melatonin is the precursor to serotonin. You produce melatonin under the correct light circumstances. So I'm talking now about your light body as it relates to biochemistry and your physical analog of your body. And your pineal gland itself is a vestigial outgrowth or a evolutionary biology story of your reptilian brain. But please don't amputate the parts of yourself that are reptilian because they are beautiful. They're at the foundation of who you are, and then they're mitigated by your mammalian tendencies on top of there. So reptiles have a light sensor at the top of their head that's part of their circadian rhythm that tells them when it's light and when it's dark, when it's daytime, when it's nighttime. It specifically matters to cold-blooded, I want to say instruments, animals, because they need to coordinate their food eating and daytime because they do not generate their own body heat. And you need to eat food when it's daytime so that you can sit on a hot rock and digest your food. You, of course, are very different, but you, as mammals, still need to coordinate your circadian rhythm. That means your waking and sleeping cycles and your daily glucose metabolic cycles have to be coordinated with the sun. And the coordination features have to do with your mitochondria. Your mitochondria are the aspects of your subcellular organelles that use your glucose. They use your blood sugar, your energy, your stored up light, and then translate it into energy of kinetic movement and of doing stuff. So the melatonin that everybody talks about that is emitted by your pineal gland, which is like the vestigial remnant of this reptilian hardware in your brain, emits from your pineal gland under either total darkness or infrared. Blue light is what stops your pineal gland from emitting your melatonin. Blue light is also what is very stupidly emitted from all of your phones and electronics and most LED lights. It's stupid, but I even hesitated to say that word because it's intentional stupidity or corrosively designed to be that way. So Antichrist is anti-light and anti-light body. Antichrist is anti-intelligence and anti-organization. Antichrist is creating these LED and heavily blue shifted origins of light that would imbalance your physical structures and make you less healthy less divinely connected, and have extremely shortened longevity. So we can talk all about different doctors that teach you on the five senses level about mitochondrial health. Some of them are spot on, some of them are really diluted because they're still laboring under like the technological five senses definitions of reality. But like I learned a lot from Dr. John, I want to call it Liurance. It's Liurance. And he wrote all about melatonin supplementation and how this relates to your energy levels in mitochondria. And that is why I started doing melatonin supplementation. Because prior to that, I had thought that if you take melatonin, it stops your pineal gland from producing your natural melatonin. And this is not truthful. So, like if you take other hormones like estrogen or testosterone, your natural production goes down because your body is like, I'm getting everything that I need from these handy external pills that you're taking. But if you take melatonin externally, your body doesn't stop producing it. It actually helps you immensely. And it doesn't just help you to go to sleep because melatonin is not just a going to sleep chemical. Melatonin is an anti-cancer chemical. Cancer cannot grow or metastasize or proliferate in the presence of melatonin. And what we are supposed to do as primal humans is wake up in the morning wearing no clothes with the sun, go out as soon as the sun comes up, get the early rays of the sunlight on your body, on your eyes. You're not supposed to wear like glasses or contact lenses. You're a primal human. And that produces high levels of melatonin. And so your melatonin is produced and conserved under the reddish orange light, the rosy fingers of dawn. Okay. Then you guys all know as the sun comes up, the light becomes more blue and much more bright and much more corrosive to the skin. If you're a primal human, you don't necessarily go down to the drugstore and buy some sunblock and put it on and be like, oh, I'm going to protect myself from the sun, which is too excessive now. If you're a primal human, you're like, oh, I have all of this anti-cancer melatonin in all of my mitochondria in my skin, not just in my pineal gland. And when I walk around during the extreme heat and brightness of the middle of the day, my body is protected through melatonin. And then, and scientists have done samples of people like athletes that are running around in the middle of the day, in the middle of the sun, and found out that their skin actually had high levels of melatonin in it. But these people were not tired. So if you take whatever, 3 milligrams of melatonin and you think like you're going to be very tired or whatever, and if you put melatonin on your skin, you think like, oh, I will go to sleep. No, you will not go to sleep. What you will do is topically protect yourself from skin cancer and other forms of cancer too, because when your body either absorbs melatonin through your skin or through, your mucous membranes, it doesn't just stay in one place. Imagine that you've got, your cells like this, and one cell is like mushed or harmed in some way. This cell that's healthy does a donation and gives a charitable contribution of melatonin over to this cell. As like, here, have some melatonin, get better, get better. And then this guy gets better. So melatonin is about cell-to-cell communication, cell-to-cell metabolism. It's like a type of economy in your body, membrane protection, and also anti-cancer. And so you can comprehend how some of these cancer protectant qualities have to do with cell regeneration, fixing of broken or fragmented cells, and healing and fixing membranes. So I also know someone who is a holistic health practitioner. She had initially encouraged me to try, these high doses of topical melatonin, and she does a lot of bicycling around town. She was hit by a car while she was on her bicycle and really only suffered minor bruising injuries, I think because she had high levels of melatonin in her body. So please know that it's just an anecdotal sharing, but I think that it's worth it. High levels of melatonin can protect you from injury, like, a car accident injury, can also protect you from sports injury. So what I do, because you guys know me at this point, I'm literally walking all day on my treadmill while I'm doing, different videos and different work or whatever. Initially, I was getting these wonderful melatonin patches from a place in the Philippines. Then the government stopped, the United States government stopped allowing those things to be imported into our country. So now I have figured out ways to be able to take melatonin powder and mix it in with like, like a nice skin cream or something like that. And I put that on at the end of the day. And I also do my red chicken light. Why do I do the red chicken light? I'm somewhat skeptical of LED lights, even if they're in the red nanometers, but I do the red chicken light because not only does it feel warm and good on my muscles after a long day of walking, but the red light helps melatonin production. So I supplement my body's own melatonin to go into my muscles, into my tendons, help to reconstitute myself after a long day of athleticism and walking and dancing. And I have found that this really does help to restore my body, prevent sports injury, like, from using my body so much. And I am not sore the next day. Even like sometimes I do workouts, on my arms or other parts of my body with weights. And I think like, oh, like I really worked out. I'm going to be so sore the next day. And I just put on melatonin and I am not sore the next day. So I share it with you as my like not secret weapon. And I hope that you are inspired to do something similar because I also feel that this is very like there's no way, very safe recommendation. There's no way to overdose. It is a totally natural part of your own body. And the key point is that there's a lot of proliferation of chronological, like aging before your time, injuries, and even proliferations of cancer that I think could be prevented if people did supplementation of melatonin because our world is so effing saturated with the blue light. And the people that are making our world so saturated with the blue light are doing it very intentionally for anti-life purposes. I'm just checking out Cheeky over here and seeing if she needs any no inspiration. She's doing great. She's doing great. She had a tummy ache earlier, but she's doing great. Okay, so key points on melatonin is that your brain does cultivate and create a small amount of melatonin, which is released upon like when you're sleepy and drowsy before you go to sleep at night. But most of your melatonin is intramuscular and between the mitochondria that are all throughout the whole rest of your body. Okay. And then the final chemical, the final hormone that your pineal gland is responsible for generating and proliferating through your body is DMT. And everyone's like, now you finally got to the good stuff, Aurora. Like, tell us about DMT. We want to learn about like wild mental adventures and everything like that. And I'll be like, well, you'll have to talk to someone else because I have never taken this stuff and I have epilepsy and I am not even allowed to look at like flashing animated GIFs or other things like that. So I have never experimented with my brain chemistry and this stuff. But I will tell you that from what I read about, hear about, and talk about with other people, I think that this artificial use of DMT is not propelling people, not bringing people into like a world of sudden enlightenment. I think it's bringing people into a false realm that I am jokingly calling the CIA call center. Like, when you call up customer service for anything, like, like your treadmill breaks, you call up customer service and it's, someone where they're fielding all these calls all day long. They're like, okay, tell me what your problem is. Did you replace the batteries? Did you do this? Did you turn it on and off? All of that. I think there is something similar that is going on in the lower astral and utilizing synthetic telepathy and artificial forms of consciousness that I think, and of course, this is relevant to the past, let's say 20, 30, or 50 years, but not necessarily the past 5,000 years. But I think that there is a technology that is going on right now in your current culture that when people start, like, here's your levels of five senses awareness. Here's the level of like dreaming, astral, lower astral, and hallucinatory trips. And then here's the world of pure abstraction, where it's pure math. And I think that mostly what people are doing when they take different molecular things like a mushroom or a DMT or something like that is that they're going into this membrane that's very gelatinous, like it's like molasses. Like you go in there and there's like, whoa, like you kind of like can't get through. And they mush all around in that level of consciousness, but not actually transcending there and never really getting to the world of real expansion, of really pure light, and of really enlightenment. So again, this is my external assessment or critique, not from the internal experience, but from talking to other people who have had these experiences. Also from looking at the artwork of people who come back from these experiences, that when I look at them, I think that the patterns that they're experiencing and seeing are not accurate. And there is such a thing as accurate harmonic patterns as opposed to like nonsense. So when you're like when you're a child and you hear a language spoken, or if you're not native to that language, it sounds like, babbling or glossolalia. So my harmonic drawings are very specific, red, and the way that these nested harmonic features come together is very specific. And it's not just a cat walking across a piano and making stuff happen. And when I see some of the artwork that comes out of people's different DMT voyages, I get a sense that they saw colors and they saw polygons and they saw some regularity of shapes, or symmetry, but it was not a real language. And it's kind of like when people do not speak English and they kind of, say like, oh, it sounds just like this, like blah 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 blah. Like the Charlie Brown adults, blah 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 blah. And it's like that is not what it really sounds like, but that's what a non-speaker would think it sounds like. So I think that people have been very much fooled. Hold on, let me just hydrate here. We might need to hug Tiggy. I think that people have been very much, I would say, impostered, fooled, and led astray by what they experience in that world of artificially presented, hallucinatory, colors and shapes. And that if you don't have training, then you don't know how can you tell if something is real bacon or if it's fake bacon flavor, because the fake bacon flavor, again, it's very aromatic, and you think that it represents something that is nutritive, but it really is just lies. It's just uh, an imposter with no nutrition. So the things that I see with my inner eye, without any additional hallucination substances or anything like that, they are curated by my inner librarian. We're going to talk about like the library card and your librarian, which is an actual aspect of your DNA. And I was like I built that comprehension over many years. So just like with anything, math or ballet, like you begin with the foundation, you begin with the 1 + 1 = 2, or like your first position, and then you move up from there. So I've shown you in this class how I started off with like the initial um, nested vortexes and that um, uh, the calibrations of the proportions, and then went into greater levels of complexity. And I've shown you on the journey, and I can, of course, do a whole dissertation on how, the 90-degree angles fit with 60-degree angles and their integrations, and the integrations through your cellular structure into your non-cellular structure. And so all of these things, it's also like playing Mozart, which again, like I have not been to Juilliard and I barely read music, so I'm not at that level at all. But it is similar to that, where you start off with simple chord structures and then you learn and grow and you become much more complex in what you're doing. So not just a cat walking across the piano. So it's very, very critical for you guys in this class to know that there have been frauds perpetrated upon you or your community members. Like if you took DMT or if people around you took it, a lot of them, it was a fraudulent experience, not a true experience of enlightenment. And it matters because that let's say that someone has this fraudulent experience of enlightenment, but they calibrate to that as if they are really enlightened or really improved in some way. And then they either just abstractly admit that that's not that good, like, stink lines coming off of them, but it's also not that good. What if they decide to write some kind of a blog like, this is everything that I saw when I was on DMT. It's the truth. Like I saw like a hummingbird and it became an angel and it became a mermaid and then it was this and that. Like whenever I hear things about that, I know that that's not the ultimate, because when you are in the level of 1 + 1 = 2, you don't interpret things through your human lens, which is to see hummingbirds or mermaids or cups of coffee or anything like that. When you are beyond your human lens, you just see things as colors or movements or you hear a tone, you hear a music, you hear something, but it doesn't sound like a voice talking to you. So now let's go back to CIA call center. So I joke about the intelligence agencies being the lint catcher, like as consciousnesses are like, hooray, like I'm gonna get enlightened, and they kind of like shoot themselves up and they kind of hit here and they don't go beyond here. And here there's the call center, like, oh hi, I'm a fake god. And they'd be like, can I worship you? Like, yes, you may worship me. What would you like, my child? What would you like it today? I'd be like, I want secrets of the universe. And this whole entire fake thing. So I joke about this, but also in the past couple of weeks I've been reading more and more stories of people who tried to take drugs, propel themselves up to this level, and who got bitch slapped on down. Like, you're not allowed to come up here anymore. Like, the door is closed. Like, in The Wizard of Oz, you go to the Emerald City and knock on the front door. Like, we'd like to see the wizard, please. And that guy comes to the front and he's like, get out. No one's home. And he closes the door. This is what they're doing in the world of whatever, the fake world of DMT enlightenment. People are going up there, knocking on the door. Hi, we'd like to see the wizard. We have questions for today. And they're like, nobody's home. Get out. And they take more drugs, and then they go back up there, and nothing happens. And I think that that's amazing. It's actually very gratifying to me because it's what I would want to have happen. Because I will also tell you that although it might seem like, well, you do you and I do me. You want to go over a cliff or you want to destroy your brain chemistry, go do it. Go crazy, right? But if you're synthetically telepathy connected to these people, their craziness or destabilization becomes your destabilization. They can be throwing money out the window, and then you will be asked to enable or pay for their poor decisions in terms of their physical energy. And also, this is big stuff. A lot of people took a bunch of DMT over the past 10 years. Some of them came back as self-proclaimed gurus, and some of them destabilized your community by saying things like, I have had visions, like I saw a hummingbird, I saw a mermaid, it means this, it means that, listen to me. And they did not know what they were talking about. And they saw very many false things or very distorted things, and then brought you distorted stories as if it was truthful. So what if I told you that I went to France and I was like, trust me, dude, trust me. I went on the Concorde and I flew to Paris and I saw this and I saw that and I saw that. And then I also ate like a strawberry croissant and then I flew back home. And if you've never been to France, you would believe all of my ridiculous stories, and you would even believe that there is such a thing as a strawberry croissant, as opposed to that's a total fabrication. If you had ever been to Paris, you'd be like, Aurora, I have been to Paris and they do not sell strawberry croissants there. And I think that you're ridiculous for saying that. And what if I made my whole career like the time I went to Paris and ate a strawberry croissant, and then everybody goes and becomes part of my cult of the strawberry croissant? Like, this is ridiculous the way that I say it, but please know that this has been going on in the world of the new age, the world of spiritual seekers. It's not enough if someone says, I had a vision or I saw this or that, but then they will come back and influence other people. And you should have so much skepticism for someone who says, I saw or experienced such and such, and this is empirical truth, and it should influence you in some way. So I think that you should purge yourself of any stories or reportage or expectations that came to you from people that really poisoned their own biochemistry and then went into an area of their inner realm in a way that is unhealthy and dysfunctional, and then brought you back stories of their unhealthiness and dysfunction. So to speak in a more positive way about what is DMT, it is the molecular doorway that you use to get in and out of your body. And you're supposed to stay in your body. And we'll also give you this as a very, very important teaching. Internalize it and share it with others. You're supposed to stay in your body, not disassociate from or loosen yourself from your integration with your body. So not only DMT, but some of these other dissociative drugs, also forms of breath work, which is really hyperventilation, like when people breathe in and out very fast, Also, some other things that people do to shock their bodies that could be like fasting and having extremely low blood sugar or other things that disturb people's biochemistry. It is to artificially loosen the connection between yourself and your body. So think of your ego or your consciousness presence as being like a hand that fits into the glove. The glove is your physical cellular structure. And you're really supposed to come into your body when you're gestating as a tiny baby, when you haven't even been born yet. And like, you're supposed to stay there. You're not supposed to go somewhere else. You're not supposed to be like, well, like, I know that I've been in my body for this long or whatever, but I'm very bored with my body. What I want to do is like, take a bunch of drugs or do a bunch of breathing exercises and see if I can somehow get out of my body. So most of these efforts to do OBE or cultivate it, I find are very detrimental, corrosive, and harmful. And they don't even bring you to areas of true enlightenment or true liberation. Think of it like Harry Houdini, who went into straitjackets and he had a way to be able to dislocate his shoulders so that he could kind of like get himself out of the straitjacket. But like, your shoulders are made a certain way to do a certain thing, like for a reason. You're not supposed to, first of all, go into straitjackets, and then also you're not supposed to consistently dislocate your shoulders to get out of straitjackets, and definitely not supposed to make this like your type of career or something like that. So, the out of body experience is the equivalent of learning how to dislocate your shoulders and, degrading your joints so that way you can do something that is like getting more free, but it's not really getting more free at all. So you don't want to do those types of things. And if you've already been through these different schools of thought that teach you how to do those things, you have healing to do, because what you have to do is kind of like stitch yourself back together where there were schisms and fractures and chasms that are not really about liberation. You now have to reintegrate. And so it's not only consciousness or intellectual awareness away from the cellular body. A lot of what's unhealthy in people that embrace DMT or embrace ayahuasca, they embrace a whole lifestyle that's about escapism, which I'm always shaking my finger to you about. No, naughty, naughty escapism. Like, no escapism, and irresponsibility. And now let's talk about the bridge between the indigo chakra and the violet chakra, and moving from the Piscean age, Pisces age, to the age of Aquarius. So the age of Pisces, not pissing on, the Piscean age, the age of Pisces, is the age of having an external authority figure. That's like Jesus or the Pope or mommy, daddy, or the president of the United States, or somebody who tells you what is right and what is wrong, and is also seeing things at the level of anthropomorphism. So all of these religions that are about like, always do this, the Pope says, always do this, never do this, are all at this level of this lens that you see the world through, that level and system of interpretation, but it is not the ultimate level of interpretation. And what you need to do is cultivate yourself and hold your conclusions about reality structure until you get to the level of violet. And that's the crown. And the crown is directly analogous to your DNA. So if your indigo chakra is directly analogous to your pineal gland, which is an amazing treasure and an amazing aspect of your anatomy, sorry, and an amazing aspect of your anatomy. My brain doesn't always work, please forgive me. But your DNA is similarly a treasure that is even at the next level. Like, what you can do with your pineal gland is pretty amazing. And there's a lot of focus on that area of the body, on that level of consciousness, and on that as a doorway to enlightenment and a doorway to meta liberation. But the ultimate doorway is to the abstraction. So I'm not a student of like the schools of thought of Asia, like the Hindu Empire and Buddhism and all of that. But what I do agree with is that so there are different schools of enlightenment, and the idea of being a disciple and moving through these different levels of transcendence until you get to the top. And what I do like and agree with is the sense of don't get stuck in the side dishes. They call the side dishes CD, SIDDHI. Forgive my horrible pronunciation, but these are charismas, magic powers, When you're on the journey of enlightenment, it is recognized throughout many cultures and many times and places that your ultimate goal is liberation, being free. But on the journey to the moment of pure liberation of your mind and of your consciousness, there's magic powers. And a lot of people get stuck in the magic powers where they're like, ooh, I can do this cool thing. I can do this cool thing on a stage in front of other people. They can give me money. And also I can be famous. And also I can be a megalomaniac and tell everybody I'm the only person who can and ever do this cool thing. And, like all self-aggrandizement. So this is beyond the perils of interpretation through this lens, which is interpretations, through the human film or human filter. There's also megalomania. And you're like, megalomania sounds awesome, Aurora. And I'm like, no, it's not awesome, because here's what's going on. Because you're like, I feel great and I like who I am when I'm a megalomaniac. I know. The only problem with it is that it is a partial truth. And you're a much richer person, and reality is richer when you can allow for the full truth. So this is your library card. Your indigo chakra is your library card, and your violet chakra and your DNA is the library of total encyclopedia of all information everywhere. When you get your library card, it means that you begin to have access to information, but not that you know everything. And it's an amazing journey to go from the age of Pisces and just getting access to information to the age of Aquarius, which is the age of personal self-responsibility, where you are no longer asking an external teacher for information or guidance, but you know things on a deep inner level, where you no longer listen to the pronouncements of a pope who says, always do this, never do this, and do this on Fridays. You follow what is right for you. And sometimes that might also mean that you're a complete iconoclast, like you're breaking systems and not conforming to different systems, because who you are and what is correct for you or in a context is different than what was right for anyone else or at any other times. And also, when you're at the level of pure abstraction in total levels of self-responsibility, you also have this level of supreme confidence or knowing of that what you're doing is right, because you can read the musical score. So like I told you, I am not very good at reading music. Like my shoulders really go down. I'm much more of a jazz musician, but when you can read music, it's not a surprise. You're like, I know what's coming up. That's a G, that's a C, that's an A. Like you can read it. It's right there. It's not magic. When you are through your DNA and through your violet chakra, totally connected to the abstract presence and the abstract viewpoint, you can see what's going to happen in time. In fact, I didn't speak enough about how your indigo chakra here is your eye of time. And it is what allows you to precognitively anticipate the future. And precog is essential for being able to do anything successfully. Like even if you are like a baseball player and you're like, okay, like I have to stand here and have to do this just right. And if I swing the bat just right, then at a certain point, my bat will actually hit the ball and I will actually do a home run. All of that requires precog. People think that it is just like simple analytics of trajectories and being able to see this. It is a lot of what athletes are doing in sports is really using their psychic gifts of precog. And that also includes like being a tennis player and being able to sense where's the ball going to be, being a basketball player, where's the ball going to be on the court, definitely being a musician. So I'm a musician and I'm also precog, and there's a reason why I do this. And also I'm like not that much into basketball because I can sense the note that's coming. So this is me like I'm playing, and either I'm playing with another person or sometimes I'm playing with my own backing tracks or a recording of my own self. But whatever I feel, I'm like, I'm playing this note now, but I can sense. I know where this is going. I can sense where this is going. Pinky's going to go over there, and that's going to be the note. And you get good with this stuff where it just becomes like what people call your second nature. It just becomes like the coolest, fruitiest thing in the world. You're like, oh yeah, second nature. I know it's going. I know this is going to happen, this is going to happen, this is going to happen. And it's part of your flow state where you don't even have to think. In fact, thinking screws you up Don't think, just do. And anyone who's in my FRL dance group knows that I say that all the time. Like, no, get out of your mind, get into your body, because your body will just know what to do when you're in these higher states. So the capacity to work at some of these higher levels of processing is post intellectual, beyond the level of the intellect, and also beyond the level of the human analysis. And you're going into levels of like this, what you would call the supernatural or the supra conscious. And when you go into those higher levels of functionality or processing, you have more RAM or more processing power. That's when you start to get into the levels of what I call seeing behind the scenes of the tapestry or an embroidery. So in embroidery, you have the front part, you see a picture. It's a Snoopy. I was talking about the Snoopy sweater. Snoopy on his doghouse in front of a Christmas tree. That's the front of what this beautiful, cloth looks like. But if you turn it around to the other side, you can see here's where like the thread connects, and here's where these things make a knot. And then here's where this color starts, and here's where this color starts. So the areas behind the tapestry, that's causality. That's where you start to see why things happen. So it is very difficult when you're on the journey of just starting to awaken your higher senses and you're just starting to get a little bit of unconditional love to be able to like get like 5 seconds on the Hubble telescope. You're like, oh, I have like $5. I'm gonna put in the money and then look through the, whatever the telescope, like it's a pay-per-view telescope. All right. And when you do that, you might get just a tiny little view of what is happening in the world. But it takes an enormous amount of love to stay loving as you interpret and process that information. Like you have to have love in order to even get that information. When you get that information, you then have to be able to process it in the comprehensional posture of love. Because otherwise, you're going to be like, that is some very effed up BS. What is this and why is this happening in the world? Like you could become inflamed. Let's say you get 5 seconds on the telescope, you look at something in the world and you're like, you see a bunch of very effed up BS. Then you come back to your regular presence and you're like, what did I just see? I just saw like a crime or a violation or something bad. Like, what is that? I'm angry. I'm inflamed. Why did that have to happen to someone? And until you are able to, so you just saw like the Snoopy picture, until you are able to see the behind the scenes. Why did that have to happen to someone? Why did someone get violated? Why did someone get murdered? Why did something break or get destroyed? And it takes an enormous amount of inner resolve to be like, I don't know why that happened. I have to get enough love to even work through the seeming illogic of how something like that could happen in the world. How about when you start to look at your own life? Because we all do this. As you cultivate more love, energy, and more momentum in your heart, some of the first things that will happen, you're like growing this tendril of attention, right? This is now my tendril of attention. And it reaches out, but sometimes what I touch on are not somebody else's life experiences. I bend it around, I touch on me. And sometimes I touch on things and I see them with that initial interpretive structure through my human lens. And I'm like, that is a bunch of effed up BS. Why did that happen to me? And sometimes I might even get mad. Like, I'm mad that that happened to me, and that is unfair, and that is unjust. And I'm shaking my finger, and it's this, and it's that. And you know something? It is. It's all of those things from this perspective. And what you have to do, as always, is transcend and go to the higher level of perspective to be able to see why that thing happened. And then at a certain point, you get the next view and you're able to see why that thing happened. You're like, oh, because these causality threads were tied up to these causality threads, and that happened because of that. And then you start to also see that not only in your own life, but in your human culture and in the larger structures of the galaxy. So all of this really matters because you have to read the book of life in the correct order. And that involves receiving your library card through your indigo chakra, your Christ chakra, but also guidance from the librarian. The violet chakra is the librarian, and it guides what your eye of time is going to look at. So in your physical anatomy, you have this lens that's going around like this, and also figure eights that are going through your indigo chakra like this. But then you have like helicopter has the blades that are going around like this. That's what your violet chakra does. And your violet chakra literally turns your face and says, look over there. And then it turns your face again and says, now look over there. Then it turns your face again and says, now look over there. So you get a very different view of the world when you read the book of life in the correct order. Like, first read page 1, then read page 2, then read page 3. I am your curator or your librarian telling you what to read. So when people begin their journey and they awaken their Christ chakra, and the first thing they read is, I am Christ. It is truthful. It's the truth. But then you have to listen to your librarian, your inner guide, your curator that tells you now you have to read the next truthful statement in the book of life, which is over here. And that's where you read, like, everyone is Christ. Of course, not people who are antichrist, but that you were like, oh, I am Christ. And then turn the page and you read the next thing in like my Christ for Dummies book. It says, and everyone else is Christ or also has this potential to be Christ. And then you read the next page and the next page and the next page. So let's talk about this interplay between your indigo chakra and your violet chakra, because these are two aspects of self that are not fighting. They're not like mommy and daddy fighting or men and women fighting in sexual politics, for forever in recorded human history, but not in the matriarchy. But for the time that you guys know about, so there's not a power struggle between the anthropomorphic view of truth and the abstract view of truth. The anthropomorphic view of truth is like, I'm Christ, I'm God. And then the abstract view of truth is, yes, you are that. And so are all of these other facets of yourself. So when I show you that picture of the central figure that has these different, stellated human forms all coming together in the forehead area, these are all other facets of yourself who are also having a synchronized, concurrent self-awakening to their true identity, which is their identity in Christ. The sadness and grief that I share with you when I do this teaching now is because I think, or am bracing myself for impact, that a lot of the facets that I expect to reconnect with out there that I emanate from are gone. That I think that's what has happened. What happened in 2020, 2021 was not just a destruction and battle on this level of reality. It was I want to say like a bomb that got dropped through all these levels of reality, including the larger galactic civilized structure that I come from and that I'm connected to, that is the Christ network. But the Christ network is different from and separate from the stellar network, and is also unique from the definition of what is Aurora or what is my Aurora collective. So these are not all the same thing. So the Christ consciousness is like a symphony or a band that's all of these different amazing facets of not only individuality, but culture, like musicians that have learned to work together in a 100% natural way, not using any level of technology. And it is my presumption or proposal that our time, like within the past 5 or 6 years, there was a galactic level assault on Christ that synchronized with an attempt to prevent ascension on this planet. Because again, the multifaceted aspects of ourself across time are a part of this moment of enlightenment or this moment of expansive self-awareness. When one of your facets of self ascends or recognizes the truth of its own divinity, all of these other facets sparkle and come into comprehension of that. So it's a big deal. And attacking or destabilizing those other aspects of self or disempowering them made it much, much more difficult for us in this moment or in this layer of reality to come to that level of personal recognition or self-remembrance that you are God and that you are part of this larger, expanded level of consciousness. So it was an attack on the larger level of self. It was also an attack on you as an individual and the potentials for your future. But on the plus side, so that's the very negative side, which is very horrible, which is like all of your friends and family in Christ might be wiped out or dead or gone in some way. We might be the only true surviving remnant of Christ and the potentials to create Christ from the future, which is, a good thing, like a good potential, but still very sad. But, and also the good news is that the extremely evil satanics, these are the lame ass losers who try to hack the system by using technology because they are so bad at what they do that they can't do it naturally. Like they can't fly naturally, they can't move through time naturally, they can't do these calculations naturally. They need all these different things to be able to get stuff done. They have drained their resources from the rest of the galaxy to be able to try to be supreme and dominate this moment now on this planet here. And they drained everything and they did not win. So they risked everything by taking, imagine if you have a franchise where you have many different, whatever, McDonald's is across the world. And then you have one that is not making money. And this one is so troublesome and requires so many repairs and constant maintenance and constant sabotage and everything is going on there that you're like, well, let's just take the profits from all of these other restaurants that really do function and we're going to put it into this troublesome version. And that's Earth. We are the worst franchise of evil that has been the most unrecalcitrant, untamed, unprofitable to the point that over the past many, many years of attempting to suppress the ascension process on this planet, the evil empire drained all of its resources from all of its other areas in time and space, focused all of those efforts here, now, and still lost. So this is very positive because what you're recognizing is that when you come to your moment of enlightenment or reconnection, you might not find that you're reconnecting with your galactic family and all these other aspects of self that should be there and that should be a beautiful homecoming, but you also will not connect with a giant pile of evil doo-doo. So I think you're going to connect with I think there's going to be emptiness. I don't know what we're going to find, to say the truth, when we reconnect out there. But this is my current comprehension of what this is. I'm looking down because I'm looking at my notes over here. I want to talk about what eating light is, what it is like in your physical presence when you eat pure light, and how this relates to transcendence of other levels of being. Because there's nothing wrong with eating food. You don't have to try to transcend your present level of who you are prematurely. But please know that once you're able to get past the gustatory urgencies of being a food eater, everything in you really changes. And that being a food eater right now is the end result of the planetary invasion of the satanics that took us from a very, very, very elevated state in ancient concurrent Atlantis, where we did not or do not eat physical food, and turned us into this version of an inefficient steam engine where food goes in here, then you have to have glucose and the actions of your mitochondria to somehow propel you through time. But there is a way that you can find the cognitive bridge that your curator will tell you so that you can think the correct thoughts in the correct order that will bring you back to being a light eater. So your violet chakra and your DNA is your librarian. And in your DNA, in your physical body, there is an actual molecule that is known as the proofreader that performs this activity for you. It goes through all of your strands of DNA all day long, looking for transcriptional errors or mutations or things that are written wrong. And it fixes them. I need to drink a lot more here. So what it's doing is, if my arm is like a piece of DNA, it constantly runs along the outer surface, reading like Braille and seeing if anything is wrong. And if anything is wrong, it has the power of the quill pen, like William Shakespeare, to erase out things that are incorrect and to rewrite it. Or you could think of it as a papyrus that is your ancient DNA, your most ancient information that you contain in your body is like a fragile papyrus, a scroll that sometimes when it is rolled up or unrolled disintegrates just because of its deep antiquity. Your curator, the proofreader of your body, the librarian, goes in there and it fixes the scaffolding of this ancient papyrus, makes sure that all of the words are written correctly. And this can be deep ancient stuff about how to eat pure light. Like that's at the foundation of your DNA. You were a light eater before you were a food eater. And this is even expressed as you are here in this level of reality. When you were born as a little human infant, as soon as you came out of the womb, you did not know, oh, like you're gonna have to eat physical food. Like they have to like stick a booby in your face and be like, here, like this milk goes in here, food goes in here. And still babies like they're like, wow, like what are you doing? Like I'm an angel. I survive on pure light. You have to teach them that they need to eat food. And also, you guys know me at this point. I have my little quail my apocalypse quail, not that it's the apocalypse, but like my effort to become somewhat semi-food sufficient, food self-sufficient that I started a couple months ago. And when these little guys hatch out of their eggs, they don't know anything. And also quail have been like very genetically modified, through years of selective breeding from humans, where you have to teach them like drink water or you will die. Like water goes in here. Then you have to give them a tiny piece of food and be like, food goes in here. Then you have to teach them about the other end and be like, now doo-doos have to come out the other end. And if you can just master these three things, you can be alive. These are like primal aspects of your DNA that have to be imprinted or you're given the basic framework so that you can be alive in the world of mortality and materialism. But really you come here with the expectation of and the framework for just being connected to the world of pure light. Like I just can't like absorb light and eat it. Like no, you must access the most recent uploads or downloads of how to have a body, and that includes eating of physical food. But there is a journey in the complementary direction from becoming a food eater and a user of glucose back into being a light eater and a person that does not require glucose. So there are some very well-known stories. I talk about this. So I've taught my class for a long time. So this is where I teach you about a Bavarian woman in the 1940s. Her name was Therese von Neumann. And although she was very indoctrinated and a part of what we know as the Christian church, I would say that she was really a true Christian. She wasn't necessarily about the death of the Savior and a lot of the indoctrinations of the expectation of your death. And she had metabolically transcended the need for physical food. And there were many stories. She's just one. Like there are stories from the different disciples and gurus of Asia and the world of yoga. There are disciples and teachings from like Buddhist monasteries and other places, and even I think somewhat from some of the, I would say, primalists, like more pagan, pardon me while I collect my thoughts, cultures and heritages. But there's always stories about someone who made it to the level where they did not have to eat physical food anymore. And this is not just a renunciation through convenience, like I'm so tired of cooking, or I don't have any ideas for any more recipes. I think I'll just become a light eater. This is really a ultimate transcendence, like getting to the top of the mountain peak of who you are and what you can do, where you are able to reconnect to the inner sun. When I show you this picture here, there's an inner sun. This area right here, it is at the top of your spine and it's loosely affiliated with your pineal gland, but not exactly. And that is the origin of light in your body. And then when you ingest light through there, then you also sparkle it all out to your extremities, which is your mitochondria. So when, first of all, I'm teaching about your circadian rhythm and how you should get up in the morning with the sun, and then you should bathe your face with the sun and do some sun gazing because that sets your bio clock for the day. And then at the end of the day, for me, the sun comes through that window. And when I try to, do my schedule and do everything correctly, then I'll sit in front of that window for at least 15 minutes when the sun is going down and get it into my mind. And what I'm doing with this is on a abstract level, ingesting light. On an anthropomorphic level, I'm having a conversation with the sun. So on an abstract level, light comes through here, food comes in here. On an anthropomorphic level, which is the level of my humanness, I have a conversation with the world of pure light. So in the morning, I get my directives where it's like, do this, and this. Go now. Go get stuff done, kid. And then I go through my day and I do all sorts of stuff. Then at the end of the day, as the sun is going down, I address the sun. And I'm like, well, I was able to do this, and this. But I don't usually say it with words. Usually I say it with music. Like usually for me, like I spend in the best of times, I spend my day getting ideas and making art and music. And then at the end of the day, I will listen to my music while I do my sun gazing. And sometimes you can see my painting there. I will stare at my painting as I'm, putting color on it. And this is my way of being able to say, this is what I did with my time. This is what I did with my time today and where I moved through time. And then I give those energies back to the sun. I get my restful directives for the time when I will be, regenerating myself at night. And you get up in the morning and you do it all again. And this connection to the rhythms, the daily rhythms, and connecting your body's circadian clock is a big part of how you have an eternal life. So it's not just being like, I'm not going to eat food anymore. I'm just going to fast for forever. You also have to connect with the world of pure light. And that's like being a good musician, where you can't just be like, I'm just going to sing like blah, 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 blah. You'd be like, that's not the right moment to sing. And you have to be in tune with the rest of the band. So in order to be a pure light eater, you don't eat physical food, but you also have to eat light, and your timing has to be perfect. So like one of my jokes is timing is everything. Like as in life, timing is everything. That's like you want to buy or sell a house, timing is everything. You want to whatever, buy potatoes at the store, timing is everything. You want to learn to eat pure light, timing is everything, kid. So yes, can't force it. And you have to learn to integrate yourself with the world of pure light. And that has to do with learning about the functionality of your pineal gland and mastering it. And you do that under the directive of your librarian, which is this proofreader that proofreads your body and makes sure that you don't get mutations like cancer, but also guides you positively in reading the truthful encyclopedia that you contain within your body. So your teacher, that is your librarian, your curator inside, first when you're a child okay, so when you first go to the library, like in the physical world, I don't know, maybe you got your first library card when you were like a kindergartner or first grade or something like that. But when you get your library card, you're like, wow, this is so cool. I'm so official. I have a library card. And then they teach you like, yeah, you can go into that building there with that magical ID and you can get any book in the whole building, right? And you go inside of there and you're like this little tiny kid. And there's like all of these books everywhere. And you're like, wow, what do I read? And the answer is like, you have to have guidance because we don't want you to read something that is not appropriate to your age. You might explore themes that are topical, that are for adults, that are not for children. Also, there might be some things that contain words or vocabulary words that are beyond your levels of comprehension, beyond your reading comprehension. And also, you have to be given the foundational knowledge to be able to build other knowledge on top of there. So we don't want to give you like War and Peace that is beyond your reading comprehension. We don't want to give you something that has like sexual themes because like you're a tiny child. You don't even know what sex is yet. It's the same when you go into your DNA. And when you start to access the truth that is in your own genetic library, at first, what you need to do is be shown by the librarian, like, this is the kids' zone. You need to sit down, like, in a big, giant yellow chair shaped like Big Bird. And here's, like, my little book of stuff that's true. And then you need to read, like, even understanding what a book is. Like, when you read a book, like, first the cover, then the first page, then the second page, then the third page, then it's over. Like, even that is an important concept, not skipping around in the pages. So in your inner development, you need to listen to the abstract nature of yourself that is beyond Christ. When I say that, people are like, are you blaspheming? Did she just blaspheme? I think she might have just blasphemed. Because in the religion of Christ is like, speaking as Christ now, is like, I'm the top. I'm the top. There's no one topper than me. And if somebody says so, don't listen, blaspheme. So you gotta set yourself up for success. Comprehend that Christianity and the avatar that we know as Jesus Christ remains an amazing person. There actually was a real teacher who came here 2,000 years ago who was a representative of the Christ Consciousness Network, who brought a message that was contextualized for the people of that time and place, who did amazing work at trying to uplift and inform and guide and nourish humanity. Really one of the best of the best, amazing musician, and someone that you would like to play music as beautiful as them, like in the same way that Mozart was a genius and wrote music for the ages that we will all remember for a very long amount of time. But important to comprehend that Jesus is not the only Christ avatar teacher ever. And also getting to this level of expansion and self-development is not the end of the journey. As it is presented in the flawed aspect of the Christian religion, it says this is the only Christ, and the only way to get to a heavenly reality is through this particular avatar, and that this is the ultimate level of reality. Those are flawed, not truthful. What is truthful is that is an amazing level of attainment, but it's not the top. And that the person who came here and taught you those things taught you up to a point, but didn't give you the finale, and that now you are experiencing the finale. So you're not abandoning Christ or Jesus if you say, hey, you were a great teacher 2,000 years ago, and it's not the end of the story and there's something else. And you're also much more exemplifying the real concept of the Christ chakra, the Christ network, and everything that civilization is, which is collaborative and celebratory, as opposed to competitive. In the world that you're in, you're used to the barbarian realm. Let me put this down so that I can effectively clutch my pearls. You're used to the barbarian realm where might makes right, and people are always fighting for supremacy. But let me explain to you and describe to you what the world of the Christ network is, or Christ consciousness. We are not in competition with one another. It's almost impossible for you to even comprehend what it's like to live at that level. But when you are not in competition with someone else, it's like what you're wearing a purple dress. It takes nothing away from my purple dress. Like, you're baking a pie. It takes nothing away from my efforts to bake cake. Like, whatever you are doing, it only adds to and complements what I am doing. So when we have the Christ network across many different star systems across the whole entire galaxy, what we are not doing is saying, like, hey, like, you're either creating a civilization or doing things with your biology that it somehow I'm in competition with. Like, the way that your world from Charles Darwin teaches you that organisms are always in competition, and it's not truthful. And it tries to portray everything in the ecosystem as always fighting. Like, plants are fighting for sunlight. According to Charles Darwin and this flawed model of reality, all the leaves are fighting. And this one leaf is like, well, I'm going to get the sunlight. But then this other leaf is like, no, I'm going to grow in front of you and I'm going to get the sunlight. And then a bigger leaf says, I'm going to grow in front of all of you and I'm going to get the sunlight. And that is not what is happening at all. But that's the version of reality that Charles Darwin came out of. He came from an island where they didn't have enough resources. Everybody fought over the resources, and some people were like the giant leaf, getting all the resources from everyone else, wearing a top hat and a monocle, being fat asses. And then everyone else was like, I'm working class. I'm a tiny leaf down here. I don't get any light. But that is not what happens in physical reality. Actually, what's happening is all of these different plants in a forest are complementing one another, moving their leaves at all times, really maximizing the access to sunlight and cooperating and collaborating. It's a perfect example because in the galaxy, the technologically using space races and the satanics portray it as like a Star Wars or a Star Trek, the Klingons versus the Federation, lasers fighting for dilithium crystals or whatever they're fighting for. And that is not at all what is happening in the world of pure light. Like in the real world of light, like I respect what is happening on this planet and they respect what I'm doing over here, and we all complement one another and we all make up those aspects of self that are epicentering at the center of your head. When you're really in Christ, you're not like, oh, I have to destroy that star culture over there because I'm in direct competition with them. Like they're going to steal all my dilithium crystals or whatever. I'm like, they are me. I am them. They are me. I want to make sure that I have dilithium crystals in all of my multiple forms. So the satanic space races have disassociated themselves so much from other aspects of self, from pure light, from biology and divinity, to the point that they would F themselves over or F over other aspects of themselves to kind of like steal from themselves across time to try to do something that they think is facile or gets them what they want. But it doesn't. It doesn't get you what you want at all. Like if I cut off my own foot and then I barbecued it and I ate it as a snack, I would not be, I would, that would be like barely even neutral. You'd be like, you amputated an aspect of yourself and then you cannibalized yourself and then you got some food. Like none of this is healthy, positive, good, or sustainable. So no, we do not want to have self-cannibalism in the world of light and of consciousness. Let's talk also about this relationship between the library card and the librarian. The librarian is always going to supersede the library card in terms of truthfulness and accuracy. The librarian knows everything. The library card is still on a journey of self-knowledge. So this is Christ and Jesus, the teacher of 2000 years ago, and all of us who are in the level of indigo, the Pisces age, and coming into the age of Aquarius. You can sing that song if you want to. We are all coming to these greater levels of self-knowledge and moving beyond the capacity to be erroneous or mistaken. We are, we're not there yet. We're getting to these levels of I can't apologize when I say so much. We are getting to levels of focused comprehension and accurate apprehension and drawing the correct conclusions from the things that we see. There's not a power conflict, is what I'm trying to say, between these different aspects of yourself. So in marriages, it's often portrayed as like the man is in charge. And there's always a fight with his wife where she's always like, put up curtains. And he's always like, I'm the man, I'm in charge. Stop telling me what to do. In your own body and in your own spiritual evolution, there should not be a conflict between the aspect of yourself that is Christ, which is materialistic, five senses based. I hesitate to say materialistic, but let's say anthropomorphic, like based in your experience of embodiment. Embodied is a better word. Your Christ indigo nature is about embodiment. And your abstract nature of the violet chakra and your DNA is about abstraction or pure energy. And in these aspects of yourself, if there's ever a question like, who do I listen to? My aspect of self that is about embodiment or my purely abstract energy self? Go with your purely abstract energy self. It's a no-brainer. That violet aspect, the abstract aspect of who you are, is going to be correct. If we're talking about music, that is the part of you that can read the musical score and knows it's going to be whatever, in A sharp. That's the note. As opposed to the indigo chakra is really playing by ear. You're like, I think it's this note. It sounds like this. It feels like this, but you don't actually know. It hasn't been measured and uh, de determined that that's what the truth is. Okay. So in your own being and in your learning and in your identity, there's not a need for a type of battle between your anthropomorphic and your human self or your embodiment viewpoint and your abstract viewpoint. You really both want the same thing, and you recognize that your abstract viewpoint is way more accurate than the other part of yourself. So although the Christ chakra is often portrayed as a man because we remember the man from 2000 years ago, and we would then say that the violet chakra is analogous to a woman, or like the presence of, divine feminine, female wisdom. And in marriages, you're used to these two things fighting, like, who's the man of the house? And like the woman's like, put up curtains the way I want you to. In your body, there's no fight. There's no fight. There's total respect. And I would like for you to just embody that truth and envision it as a perfect relationship where your librarian tells you what to look at every minute of the day. There's no friction. It is a seamless integration. And what is really distressing to me about the world of social media and the false light, it's very attention grabbing. So now we want to talk about what even happened to the Christ network out there. But the world of technology grabs attention where it says, like, now here's a shiny thing, look over here. Now here's an advertisement, look over here. Now look over here. Even the way that words are put on a screen, like first you read these words, then you read these words, then you read these words, like the font and the way that things are laid out on the screen. These are all very artificial and very unhealthy ways of manipulating consciousness. And what you're supposed to do is follow your own natural appetites or your own natural consciousness. And part of that is going into the library or the encyclopedic nature of truthfulness in the world and having your own curiosities guide you as to what you read, learn, know, or access, or your curator, your higher dimensional librarian that gives you information in the order that you need to receive it in order to become more loving. So with some things, if you read this, it's going to bring you down. It will not make you more loving. It will make you question the reality of God. You're like, that is a bunch of effed up BS. Does God even really exist? But if I show you different information, I show you this, and this, you're like, look at that. Life is worth living. God exists. And all of this is the same truth. It's the same words on a page in the library of you, but it gives you a radically different context or conclusion. When you draw the wrong conclusions because of the erroneous order in which information has been presented to you. So the synthetic telepathy, synthetic hardware and software, and all this nano and 5G stuff, the great crime that it does is presents information to you, your mind, your cellular structure out of order. And then the erroneous conclusions that you draw and the erroneous picture of the world that you paint based upon the information out of order. The restoration is to receive the correct information in the correct order. And that is how you become a light eater. When you learn first this, then this, then this, then this, then you become a light eater. And there's not a way to accelerate it, make it go faster. I need this by Tuesday, or jump ahead over a bunch of stuff, or do things in the wrong order. And I'm trying to think of some physical thing that I don't have a good analog, but imagine something that you're trying to master, like some type of martial arts or acrobatics, where it's like there's not a way to skip over these skills. Like, let's say acrobatics, where if you want to do a handstand, like first you have to master this, then you have to be able to lift a 10-pound weight, then you have to be able to do this, then you have to do this, then you have to be able to, whatever, hang from a bar for this many hours, and then you can do this over here. It's exactly the same way. So your true Christ teacher should bring you through this training regimen to eventually bring you to levels of pure abstraction wherein it is no longer necessary to eat physical food. This will happen as a part of your natural growth. Okay, so wait, I want to because I want to talk about that was Therese von Neumann. She was known as a person who only ate one little Eucharist a day. So she was sustained on her faith. That is how she is usually portrayed in the world. But please know that that is her version came through the filter of biblical literalism. But I try to teach you of staying away from biblical literalism and know that you can eventually eat pure light and also, as part of the end result of your journey of consciousness. And also, please know that this opportunity to eat pure light is not predicated only upon people who have given up their identity to have an identity in the church, known as baptism and getting a new identity in Christ. Those things, in many ways, are the opposite of what you're supposed to be doing, because you're supposed to be taking full responsibility for everything that you do. What a lot of people do in the facility of your Christian doctrine in the world right now is to be like, I'm getting baptized. Like whoever I was before, that's all in the past, and I'm new. Like I'm shining and new now. And so all of my sinfulness, drug use, and weird sex stuff, that's all in the past. I'm baptized now. I'm different. And I think that that's an artificial bifurcation in your life to say like I'm different now since this baptism. It's a facility, it's a construct, it's not necessarily truthful. You haven't actually changed your energy from who you were to who you are now. There's not a way to just magically pronounce that the debts are gone and that they are not actually there. And that so there's levels of distortion and unhealthiness and escapism and lack of responsibility in doing that. So what does the responsibility actually look like? Collecting my thoughts, in taking responsibility for the things that you have done. Oh my goodness, my brain is dead. I think it's so frustrating to me when I feel my compass going away from where it's supposed to go into not what I want to actually say. So I'll say it in this way instead. Your violet chakra is your compass that connects you to divinity and guides your mind in every moment for what you should be thinking and doing in order to sustain you. And what sustains you beyond food is ingestion of truth. Like when you are always in alignment with pure light and pure truth. And so even the fall into materialism, or he was pushed into materialism, was no longer being able to be reliant upon light and pure abstraction and being like, I will need a sandwich to sustain me. I cannot rely upon light. I will have to rely upon a sandwich. So there is a restoration in the comprehension of what is light. How is it a vivifying object? How is it more than a mere ephemeral abstraction? How can my physical presence be sustained by light? And this is information, not just randomness or anything like that. So for someone like Therese von Neumann, you would have to give her credit that she actually learned a series of pronouncements or truthful statements that brought her to the end conclusion, oh, I no longer need to eat physical food and I can be sustained without that. And it's not in arbitrary nature. Like I have just decided to declare I am just going to eat physical, just eat light and no more physical food for me. Like without, it would be like if I just declared myself rich. Be like, I am rich now. Be like, Aurora, show me your bank account. Bank account, schmank account. Like I just declared myself rich. Like you have to have certain things in order to really be rich. So eating pure light, this is a direct analogy of being rich. You have to have the treasure of your mind. In fact, let me speak to you about your pineal gland and the structures of what is in your pineal gland. You have these tiny little crystals, and I don't know if it's worth it for me to scroll through here to try to find it, but okay, wait, I'll get to my other things in a moment. So inside of your pineal gland, you have super purified water and you have tiny crystals. And each of these crystals are very small. Some of them are one atom or they're just a couple of atoms. So they do not derive their value from being large, like a giant diamond or something like that. But these are the real treasures of your mind because they are what allow you to connect with the world of pure light. It is through these crystals that you are able to receive different concepts or viewpoints. So your mind and your pineal gland paint a picture of reality. It's a lens that defines reality, but also it is an aperture through which you receive energy that can be the energy of liberation. If your pineal gland or your lens only ever acted to decode or describe to you what you're seeing around you, you'd be like, great, you're just stuck. You're stuck in a garbage world. Like there's a lot of garbage around you, a lot of poop and doo-doos. And it would not help you. But what actually helps you is that you have these crystals in your mind that allow you to transcend your present level of experience and reach for something bigger or greater or more organizational and to move beyond these levels of experience. So now I want to talk about, there's also retinal cells in your pineal gland. You have the crystals that are part of your antenna for connecting to the world of pure light. And your antenna is also part of your body. Your DNA is part of it. And so is or are your oils on your skin and all of the hairs on your skin. Like when I go outside and I'm in the sun, all of the holy oils that are on my sebaceous glands connect to all of my hairs on my skin, and they all talk to the sun, and they all absorb light into me through that action. So you're getting there. You're definitely getting there. It's more than just the physical five senses, feeling your body feeling warmed by the sun, or even sweaty, or even like, you're getting cooked through like a rotisserie chicken or something like that. You are receiving actual sustenance that goes into your light body. And the more light that you absorb, the more that you are able to generate the force field of love, the more that you're able to book moments of insight on your telescope. And then the more that you're able to integrate those insights into accelerating even more towards levels of pure light and, transcendence of the physicality structure. You also have retinal cells that are in your pineal gland, but they don't respond to optical light. They respond to thought waves and consciousness. And then, you have a good feedback loop. But I also want to talk about like imago cells. So imago cells, this is the name for what gives structure to the potential body of a future butterfly when it's still transitioning from being a caterpillar. Your caterpillar, at a certain point, cocoons itself and dissolves its structures into a formlessness that is the potential for its adult form. You, in becoming Christ and higher and beyond, are becoming your adult form. But just as the goo of the dissolved caterpillar needs to have the imago cells, imago and imagine, the same root word, because it is the structure of anticipation that gives formfulness to physicality. The winged form of the butterfly comes forward because there's a structure of anticipation. Like, you're gonna become this. It's gonna be shaped like this. Cluster around this. Now emerge. You do that with reality. You create these structures of expectation of how reality is going to be made with your imagination. And this is the directly connected to the retina cells inside of your pineal gland, your imagination and your ability to anticipate. So this is a superpower, the ability to see things and anticipate things and expect things to emerge that aren't in front of you right now. And not every animal has this. We say it is definitely a part of the more evolved and highly centered animals. So like my dog has an imagination. Mostly what she imagines is like finding a piece of a hot dog on the sidewalk, or, like whatever, an egg roll, something that she's never had that she wants to have. And she imagines it and then she gets it. Somehow her reality conforms in a molecular state to her envisionments. Her imagination, envision and imagine. The ability to see a picture of something that isn't there yet. So imagine my dog, she's like picturing an egg roll. She's like, this is the thing that I want. And then somehow someone else out there in the world is going to drop it out of their, takeout bag. It's just going to find it somehow. Or that's my rationalist version of how it emerges. However else matter emerges into reality, because sometimes it emerges directly from her dog brain. where she's like, I am going to emit waveforms that's going to end up being an actual physical egg roll on the ground. So let's talk about all of this. It is the ultimate in being um, responsive to your environment and having your environment respond to you. Recognizing that you're in an alive world. My dog doesn't think like I'm in a dead world. My dog thinks I'm an alive dog in an alive world, and I want to make some alive egg rolls and walk around eating the scenery. That is what is truthful. So the materialistic view from Sir Isaac Newton says, no, kid, you're not in an alive world. The world does not respond to you. The world is a bunch of dead stuff called matter. And if you want an egg roll, like somebody has to actually, fold that sucker up and stick it in the oven and, put it someplace for you. You don't just manifest stuff with your mind. That's the limits of objective materialism. And when you are moving into the levels of Christhood, Christ connection, and Christ and beyond, because you're moving into like the world of pure light and pure abstraction, then it's not necessary to have an intermediary, like a chef that cooks the egg roll and a person that drops it on the floor for you to actually experience it. You and your oh my goodness, sorry, I'm having so many brain problems. You and your interface with physicality is what makes these things happen. And once you can start to cultivate that truth, then you can do more than manifest an egg roll. Like that's my dog. She's like, I'm hungry. I want to manifest an egg roll. And she's like, chomp, that was a delicious self-creation. On to the next thing. But humans think differently. Like humans might think like, I'm going to manifest a gem. I told you about that story last week. My friend that now she must be in her 70s or 80s, but many decades ago, she was in an ashram in India and her guru manifested a gem in his hand. Like he just made matter with his mind. And when we do something like that, we're beyond manifesting of egg rolls. We're not just going to eat the thing that we made. We're going to be like, that is food for my belief. Food for my ability to believe in and expect a world that is alive and responds to me. So I have my own stories that a couple of them happened actually on Mount Shasta years ago because Mount Shasta is a amplifier. It's a cosmic microphone and it's a place where things happen more loudly than in other places. Although, of course, like our world has changed. And so I don't know, I haven't been there recently, but when I went there at that time, it amplified the manifestations out of my mind very much. But I saved these stories for like campfires and special moments. I don't always talk about them on a computer video forum like this because like my friend receiving that gem from her teacher, it has a big impact on you. When you receive truthful information about the malleability of the structure of reality beyond materialism, it breaks your brain. You're like, wow, like magic is real and I can make stuff happen. And it can, and it does. And you then go forward and explore that. So I had many impossible experiences or seemingly anti-rational experiences that foundationally uplifted me and confirmed what I already knew and expected, which is that I'm in an alive world. The world responds to my thoughts, feelings, and expectations and what I send out, and that there's much more available to me in terms of reality description and reality creation and what I can receive than just rationalism. That magic or supernatural or that which is beyond the rational does exist and it can absolutely sustain you and give you everything that you need. So this is very different because people would be like, no, like that's not enough to sustain you. Like you need like gasoline and other practicalities. So this is relevant to our cultural moment that we're in because we are moving beyond materialism. That says materialism says basically you will have to have oil and oil refinery and hexane and these different things to be able to have the practicalities of your life. And you can't survive without those things. Can I have a brief rant? And I know we're getting towards the end of class and I get a little bit silly and off track, but here's my brief rant, okay? So I'm very connected to seeing what's going on in the world. I know that there's all these problems in the Middle East that are affecting petroleum access in other places. So I was reading all about I think it was in Japan, like they have questions about whether people will still be able to access tofu. And it's not because they don't have enough soybeans. No, the truth is they have plenty of soybeans. They're making tofu hand over fist. The problem is that they don't have all of the plastic cling films and colorful inks to package the tofu. So I'm watching this video, and the guy that runs the tofu company, of course, he's speaking in a different language, but it's translated. He's like, oh, yeah, we're looking at all sorts of different ways to solve this problem. Things like if we can just make one color ink instead of a multicolor ink package. But he's like, this is an important thing, the marketing for our consumers so that they know that they're getting a good product. And this is my rant, okay? So you're in this moment now of moving out of materialism where you're like, food goes in here. There's only a certain number of potatoes in the world. We all have to pay money and buy potatoes and stay alive. And you're moving into a world like Therese von Neumann, where you're like, I don't have to buy potatoes. I am sustained on my love of Christ and one Eucharist, or my dog, who, without any religious training, manifests a delicious hot dog or something like that in front of her face, and then she just eats it. Um, far from any of those things. Again, collecting my thoughts. Sorry that I say so much. Um, the very materialistic leader of this company was opining that they're going to have to change their packaging in order to serve the consumer. So, like, here's what needs to change in your world right now. Like, you don't need colorful ink in order to be able to encourage people to buy tofu. People are like, I care about the product of the food, not about how pretty the packaging is. And it's like the Antichrist level of reality. The concept of marketing, the concept of distracting your mind or rhetorically emphasizing or convincing you that you should do something that you wouldn't ordinarily do. Like, I don't need to be convinced. I'm hungry. I want to buy the food. The packaging and the color of the inks mean nothing to me. And the idea that in this world right now, there's a question about whether people will receive a food crisis, not because there's not enough food, but because there's not the right colored ink for the packaging of the food. And I realized I have to educate humanity that, like, it doesn't matter what color the ink is, because it's all petroleum-based ink, but what matters is the quality of the food. And when you start to deconstruct this, you're like, well, they're in this tofu company, there's a whole marketing team. Some people, it's their job to just make the tofu, right? And those guys matter. And you want those guys to still have their jobs. But you got to wipe out and prune away all of these irrelevant people whose whole entire job is designing the packaging, making the colors look the right way, making sure that you have the right plastic and ink. I have nothing at all to do with the actual nourishing substance that you're trying to get to people. It would be the ultimate and unfunny farce if humans starved, not because of a lack of availability of soybeans, but because of a lack of availability of brain power to the people that package the soybeans to recognize that none of us care what color the package is. You can wrap it in a banana leaf. You can what did people wrap it in 400 years ago? Like, you can problem solve and do things very differently. So it is a need to go into creative problem solving and then also poke all of the forbidden cows, which might mean let's reassess whether we need any amount of colorful ink, any amount of colorful or plastic packaging. Do we need the plastic layer of reality? And that includes people, let me just hydrate a little bit more. People whose job is so boring and so unfulfilling that their whole entire job is just figuring out how can I make a colorful ink to sell more tofu to people? It's not how can I make the tofu more tasty? How can I make it a better quality? How can I make more of it? Their whole entire professional life is going to work every day and figuring out how can I make this colorful graphic sell more tofu? Or how can I get this onto more shelves? Or how can I this and that? And you're thinking to me, you're like, Aurora, like, that kind of sounds like my job. Maybe that sounds like an analog to your job. Maybe you're not directly involved in the creation of stuff and you are part of the plastic film layer, the marketing layer. And it's not a good layer to be a part of because it's actually not essential. It is actually not required, it is actually not desired. How would we eat and what would our food expression look like if we didn't have nonsense packaging that was focused on being colorful and selling things to us that we wouldn't buy ordinarily? Like the truth is, I don't need a special wrapper on my, what I didn't eat that much bread, but I actually did get some of the local place over here. Like if I'm going to buy good bread, I do not need it to have a special package on it. Like I'm going to get it from the sourdough place and it's going to have the best ingredients in it. I don't know if that rant fell flat because it took so long or whatever, but like, please know, humans cannot allow themselves or others to starve because the plastic marketing division didn't get enough hexane from the Straits of Hormuz. You have to think differently. You have to recalibrate yourself differently. You have to recalibrate what is a decent profession. No one should have their profession like deciding how many colors to put on the cling wrap for tofu. You have to have a more fulfilling, important way of doing things. So you're understanding it. It's a direct analogy for the plastic layer of reality, a layer of unhealthy, fake crap that wraps up the food that you actually want. And think about the people who are working their job of selling plastic cling film to wrap up tofu. They're not happy or satisfied people. And if they are, there's something very wrong with them. Your life should be about more than optimizing cling wrap for tofu. Your life as a human being should be more than optimizing cling wrap sales for tofu. You're getting it. Your life is about a miracle. You're a miracle. You're becoming enlightened is the self-recognition that you are a miracle within a miraculous world. The job of going to the marketing division every day in order to sell things or try to amp up sales, it's a fake level of reality. And when I said that, not that you guys are in marketing or whatever, but you recognize maybe some of you who are, transitioning out of that fake world. You're like, I relate to this. My job is fake and I'd rather be making the real tofu. I'm like, yes, this is correct. So your mind and your ability to create is sacred. Like my friend's guru who manifested a gem, it was a sacred activity. People need to start taking huge responsibility for and ownership of and valuing their time and their creative generative energy. The imago, the scaffolding and framework of your imagination should be and shall be applied to the most beautiful, expansive, and fulfilling aspects of your life as a wild, feral, primal human, not to optimizing colorful cling wrap. You must use your imagination to something better. And so this is my mandate to you right now. And please, without judgment or criticism, but please redirect. Draw your energy back to you from whatever you have lavished your attention on. This is also when I tell you about your tendril of attention. This is my tendril of attention now. You are creating a vortex out of your pineal gland. You're using it to touch on things. It's your attention. It's what you focus on. It's what you pay attention to. Think about how many things in this world are marketing and advertising, like a stupid billboard. Can't help but pay attention to it. It is right there. You see it, but also so many things on the computer now. Like this has become normal and I hate it. You go to read an article, even in a well-respected place like the New York Times or whatever, and there are all these ads that come up first. It's like, I want to read the thing that I actually want to read. I want to be a responsible citizen. I want to read information. And it's like, here is an ad. Like, do you have belly fat? And then here's another ad. Like, do you have bunions? And then here's another ad. Like, this is all a hijacking of your attention. Tendril of my attention wants to be responsible and learn about this, this, and this. And instead, my tendril of attention is being assaulted with lose belly fat now or 10 steps to getting rid of your acne. And these are intentional assaults on the functionality of your attention tendril. So in a pristine system, when your tendril of attention reaches out, like your appetite, you go towards what smells good. Have you ever had that where like someone is barbecuing in the neighborhood and you're like, I'm just going to follow my appetite. Whoever's doing that, it smells really good. This is what it should be like for you. You are on a quest for truth. And when you ask questions, that is what you're doing. You are questing for truth. And you should send out the tendril of your attention, and it should go towards the most aromatic, mouth-watering barbecues of truth that you can find in your neighborhood. And your librarian of consciousness also helps you to curate and to know where you should be going and what you should be looking after and what you should be wondering about. So for me, I don't really find my nourishment, it's barbecue of truth for me is not in other people's work. So that's like, I don't really read other people's books or watch their videos or stuff like that. I do like listening to other people's music, but I'm very selective about good music because I think like garbage in, garbage out. So I don't want to listen to bad music. But what I do is go on a quest with my own inner mind. Like how I came up with Path of Light curriculum was literally by putting my tendril of attention on light, on a light bulb, learn about these things and then get information from that. So I will start to wrap up class and I'll get to any questions and comments. And there's always more. I have actually I had 12 pages of printed notes, which I did send out to you guys because I did not wait until the middle of the night to be able to send out my class materials. But read my notes. And then also please know that a lot of my notes, well, I have just not negated, but refined of what I'm teaching you about now. Uh, when you are questing, you're asking questions that guide your mind, and it is guiding what books you're going to take out of the cosmic library with your library card. And I would encourage each one of you to know that it's a wonderful privilege to be able to use your mind like this, and it's expensive. So even though like the library is a public resource, you're not paying money like at Barnes and Noble, but you want to be selective, not just take out any book from the library, take out the right book and read the right thing at the right moment, because that will literally propel you to the interest in the next topic. Like you bounce from topic to topic, and your enthusiasm for learning is what motivates you to keep going. So many of you might have been through the public school system. So you're like, enthusiasm for learning, blah, ha, ha, what's that? That doesn't exist. But I'm like, no, it does exist. Even if your natural appetites have been disgusted by the rat-infested feces that you found in the public education system, please know that there is a very joyful way to move through your spiritual education. And my goal, as always, is to connect you to your inner teacher. So the Christ consciousness and this librarian that's in your DNA, these are innate to you. You don't have, this is age of responsibility, and we're focusing on your inner world, not external authority. You should find the inner teacher. And in doing that, you find your liberation. And it also is wonderfully freeing because literally you don't have to pay a guru. You don't have to attend a special school. You don't have to get anything other than what you already have. So it's very much your Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz moment where you're like, oh, I have the ruby slippers. I just click my heels together. You've had it with you all along. Yes, Glinda is telling you this right now. So what you want to do is all of the self-cultivation exercises necessary to get your library card and connect to your inner librarian. Doing that brings you to these levels of positive education, self-education, and self-exploration. And someone else is asking and wondering, like, is it the same curriculum for each person? It's actually a little different for each person. So think of it like an athletic exercise. Like if you're going to learn how to do a handstand or a back bend or something like that, like some people might have already started out with plenty of muscles here, but they need more muscles here. And so the cultivation will bring them the muscles that they need. So you will bring to yourself your own necessary and required levels of self-cultivation. What you're really doing is teaching yourself the Christ and the abstract nature. It is really yourself. It's the best thing in the world. And it's a wonderful, loving teacher. I don't know if you ever had like a very strict ballet teacher or a piano teacher or whatever that was always like hitting you and being like, no, you did it wrong. Do it better. Do it better. But this is not that type of an unloving teacher. Your Christ teacher Your higher guidance is incredibly loving towards you, but and also not going to accept any bullshit because that's important too. Like if you are in substance abuse or if you are not responsible to yourself, your higher teacher, your, librarian of the cosmos is not going to be like, there, dear, it's totally fine. Let's just smoke more crack. You'll be fine. Like that is not what is going to happen. So for self-critique and your own behavior, your higher self will tell you what are things that bring you towards life and what are things that bring you away from life. And then it is totally your job to listen. Then there are other things that are maybe not so obvious, like not staying away from crack. Don't smoke the crack pipe. That's obvious. I have so many bugs in here. But there are other things that are unique to you that you need to learn about. And your higher consciousness curator will bring you those concepts in the correct order. So let me now get to some good questions and comments over here. Mary Ellen, thank you for being here, says, what is your opinion of Dr. Cruz's thoughts on certain locations on Earth? Different magnetic fields are better for humans to live, not just the sun. Thank you. So this is actually perfect because I was thinking about him because he sent me one of his videos. I didn't watch it, but I have watched a bunch of his stuff. So this is Dr. Jack Kruse, Kruse. So I think that he's like a storied individual. He's got his ups and downs. I think he did work for some of the mind control factory stuff. Like I think he knows a lot about neuroscience and neurochemistry because he was working with or for these people at a certain point. But now he's gotten himself out of the system. The basics on this guy is that neuroscientist. He used to work the night shift and like helping people who had been in car accidents. So he's up all night, and he found that it had like a terrible impact on his own health, body fitness, and circadian rhythm. And he was like way overweight and his body wasn't metabolizing food correctly. So he ended up going on a five senses objective materialist deep dive on how do your mitochondria work. And by doing that, let me hydrate myself here. He learned about himself. He was able to get to be a lot healthier by what he does in his own body, minimize his blue light. You'll see him wear the red shifted glasses all the time. He now lives in Central America in order to get more equatorial sunlight. He's very big on doing a lot of his video work outside in the sun. I would too, to tell you the truth. Like if I had a place where I wouldn't be annoying my neighbors, I'd totally be outside in the sun right now, talking with you on the computer. And as soon as I finish these classes, I always go directly outside with me and my dog. So I really relate to that quite a lot. I'm at odds with Dr. Cruz about. He believes in COVID, the virus, says that he actually saw the sequence of the virus. So I believe more that the COVID symptoms are a response to excited nanotechnology, fictionally, of course. So he is still a little bit more in the traditional indoctrination realm than I am. And then, so here's Mary Ellen's question, because he proposes the idea that you should be, let's read what you wrote over here. Different magnetic fields are better for humans in certain places on Earth, not just the sun. So I think that there's something to this. I think that it's very, very difficult to live in some places that are like above the Arctic Circle. You know, like just the energy. When I say energy, I don't even mean like new age energy. Like there's not a lot of solar energy in places like Antarctica or, very, very frozen areas of the planet. Like the basics of this is like, yes, there are some places that are supportive of life, some places that are not supportive of life in general. Then when we move away from those generalities, for you, each individual person, there will be some places where your body thrives and is optimized, and there are other places where your body does not thrive and is not optimized. And this is unique for each person. Just like some people with physical food will thrive and do really great. Like eat a lot of whatever, lemons and grapefruits, and your body will love it. And some people will be like, no, if I did that, I would have a terrible stomach ache. You have to be diverse for your unique body, and it's the same with where you live. So some of it is your cultural heritage. Like if you come from above the whatever, in like northern Canada or Sweden or something like that, like you're built for the cold. You should live someplace cold. Like you're definitely built for it. And similarly, like if your people biological ancestry come from a tropical place, you'll probably be much happier living someplace where it's really hot than trying to live someplace where it's cold. So there's something about your ancestral biological heritage, but then there are also things that are about your spiritual or consciousness heritage that's not related to your biology that will dictate where is the best place for you. So I would say yes as an answer to your question, but probably not along the same lines as Dr. Cruz, that he might be coming at it from more of a measured, scientific, objective viewpoint. But I come at it more from the sense of where your feet touch the earth, like you're like a battery and you're going to be more energized in some places than in other places, and it has everything to do with like the earth and the ecosystem and the consciousness of the planet and where you should be and where, how to optimize what are your psychic gifts and what are your metabolic gifts and where you should be in the world. So I am a weirdo because I am a walk-in and because I am a genetic anomaly. So there were not really places where my body was like, you should be there, you should be there. But I will tell you that I engineered and created my place, which is here where I presently live in Southern California. So that's another aspect of this, is that some things come to you from your ancestral heritage, your biological heritage, and your spiritual heritage, but some things you make, generate, or kind of create. I want to say not forge, like artificial, but like you plow or you make the feeling in the earth yourself by the things that you do there. So I didn't have a particular connection to this area of the world, but I made it my place and it is my place now. Okay, so really good question there. But there are definitely some places where it's optimum for life and some places where it's not optimum for life. But I will also say, let me open the door for my dog too. I don't agree with Dr. Cruz's assessment of like some environments being optimum. It's not, because I know that like there are certain deserts where he might say it's not good to live. Let me open the door for Cheeky. Sorry to walk away from you guys. Certain deserts where it's not optimum to live, certain places, jungles where he would say it is optimum to live. I think you can't look at it that way, because like American Southwest in New Mexico and Arizona, there are some places there where he would say you can't live there and nobody can live there. But the truth is there are indigenous people that have been living there for a long amount of time. But you have to, I don't have better words for it, like cannot have an expectation of the environment necessarily supporting you. You have to effort and request a lot. So some environments, like, of course, like they're very abundant and beautiful and positive and good and support life a lot more easily than other places, like a very severe desert. But there are people that have lived in the very severe desert and they love it and they thrive there. So it's like it's and my real answer is too difficult to answer the generalities, because there are so many different types of people. It's like the types of breeds of dog or whatever, different types of plants. Like there's different requirements for different people. Okay, so Michelangelo says, speaking of listening to good music, have you had a chance to listen to mine? I'm so sorry that I have not, even though I recorded the album 30 years ago. I really, really apologize. And I'm so sorry that I haven't had a chance to listen. Everybody, please give me a blanket of forgiveness, because sometimes people send me either music or something to read or a video to watch or something like that. And I do not always have not only the time, the energy, the cognitive focus, and the emotional receptivity to be able to look at it and appreciate it. In fact, let me go a little bit further and then I will wrap up class. But my efforts, especially like over the past 5 years, but especially over the past 4 months, have been almost entirely devoted to what I call like fighting World War III. So I'm very much glue of reality, fighting in order to maintain and stabilize fragmentations and negative reality peripherals that were very perilous. And I told you, energetic weather report, we're past a lot of the perilous stuff, and I have done an enormous amount of garbage duty and taking a lot of garbage out of this world. But I am focused at almost at all times on my calculative presence and on these reality maintenance and stability adding activities. So my total forgiveness. Sometimes I don't respond to texts, phone calls, emails, and other things as quickly as I would like to, even request for sessions. And please know that it's because I am focused on something that is very positive and very worthwhile for the collective. And it will be my utter job joy in the world when I don't have to be focused on using so much of my willpower to keep the world steady and to keep us from going down the toilet. And when I can use my energy for fun, positive, socializing, and communicating and doing things that are about art and music and uplift. Believe me, I would very, very much like to do that a lot more than scrubbing the toilet as I'm presently doing. So may that happen for us very soon. And I also do really feel that this has been an ongoing struggle for consciousness uplift against these incredible forces of transhumanism. We are winning. Like we, the organic, real Christ and potential Christs, are absolutely triumphing, and our victory is inevitable over the antichrist, synthetic, technology-based, and hardware-based crapola. And that has all been a distortion and distraction, but nothing that actually took us away from our path. So something that delayed us over the past 5 or 6 years, but it did not stop the ascension process. So it's my utter intention for us to get back on track, make up for lost time, and refocus on all of the truly benevolent and life-affirming and fulfilling activities that we really came here for. So thank you for that. Joyce says, thank you, Professor. Much gratitude and appreciation. Hugs to Cheeky too. 1 year off cigarettes. Totally. High five. High five, celebrate with whatever. Like, I'm sure you saved a bunch of money not having to smoke a bunch of cigarettes, but also celebrate yourself and how far you have come and how much you have changed. And you're probably at the level of being past tobacco, where like if you smell it, you're probably like, oh, that smells terrible. So instead, it doesn't smell tempting or appealing. You're probably at the point where you're like, oh, smells like an ashtray, smells horrible. So good job on you. And please keep going in positive, life-affirming directions. Michelangelo says, thank you, Master Aurora, much love. And thank you. Thank you so much for sending me your creativity and for doing your creativity. And I would love to do more. I mean, oh my goodness, I would love to collaborate with people. I haven't been collaborating with people musically. And you can tell from my musical output that I don't make as much music as I would like. So it's not personal criticism at all. Please know this is how difficult and really unfulfilling this time is. But we will come to a time where it's like, I will get back to making music every day. That would be the focus of my day, not cleaning up cosmic garbage. And we will have a much better quality of existence. So it's important to keep that as a pristine, vision of the future. We're definitely on the marathon. Mile 25 of a 26.2 marathon. Like, this is tough stuff. Keep going. Keep going, everybody. Good. All right. Thank you so much, Mary Ellen. Thank you to everyone. Thank you to the people who are in this class. Thank you to the wonderful long-term and new students. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your own thoughts and your own contributions to reality. And thank you, as always, for including Cheeky. Thank you. All right. And again, thank you so much to my wonderful student who got me this stylus. I think that it helped my brain a lot today. All right. Have a wonderful night, everyone. Thank you so much.